serious look.
Focused.
From Eric.
Focused.
He hasn't said a word in 45 seconds.
Are you off-put by such things?
I am. From you, I get nervous. I get a little nervous. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's Locks Before Lock. We'll get you ready for the 6-game slate tonight in the NBA. Eric Lindquist is here to offer all betting advice and insight across the board. I'm Eytan Shander. I'm hanging here as well. I'll offer when I can. Jordan's producing. He's here as we have the deeper dive and Live Before Lock coming up after us. Just a half hour, little sprinkle of some betting advice. You on the chat, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't here. And the Odd Shopper channel will take any betting advice we can get from you out there, some sharp individuals in our community. So if you have a suggestion, let it fly. It's always a pleasure, my friend, when we get a chance to sit down.
We always do. Again, people think from our Sunday show that we might not like each other, which is definitely not
still hanging?
The case. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, we were going to get in the boxing match. Maybe a DFS boxing match was actually going to happen. You probably don't know this. For years and years, there's been buildup of different guys in the DFS community, in the DFS space, in the betting space that you thought were going to match up, and they never do. So maybe we just do it as friends. You know, we could be those UFC fighters at the end that are like, I respect him.
And never fight.
I'm
not in shape I can't get into the ring. I am like the least in shape person on this channel. So I'm not boasting that I can get into the ring and fight anybody here. All right.
Babies will do that. Babies will do that.
Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, I don't have time to tell you how much weight I gained in the week in which we were in the hospital because I ate better there than I had over like the last 20 years of my life. Anyway, let's look at the slate tonight. Detroit's at Washington. Here we have it. Not even a high total to mess around with. Is there anything on the game that you like? There wasn't anything necessarily that jumped out at me from a side or total, but again, that's where Odd Shopper comes into play. Well, I'll give you a couple of player props that may have jumped out here with some pretty good value thanks to Odd Shopper, but is there a side or total play at the very least, maybe even a first half or quarter play from you, Lindquist, at the very least?
Yeah, it's not a very intriguing spot. I will say that Kelly Olynyk over 9.5 points is the one play that I think sticks out on Odd Shopper that sticks out to me as well. I'm okay trying to take that shot based off of 24 minutes, but don't forget he did play in that overtime period. So that's an extra 5 minutes on the 19 he played there, but he closed the game. Maybe Detroit gives him 20 minutes here with no Marvin Bagley. He is doubtful here. Once again, he has over a 20% usage rate when he's on the floor. So at least he's active out there shooting him, projecting him north of 11. I think 9.5 points is a little low, but I'm not going crazy. I think it's probably around a 2-star play for me.
Okay. No, I think the game itself is just a tough one here by all means, especially with the Wizards on the road here. Ish Smith jumped out, especially on Odd Shopper, right? Because here's one, and this is a great example. Rasa talks about this a lot, and I subscribe to as well, where if you don't have any idea what's going on in a game, you have the tool available to you. You go search right there in the game, XROI or win percentage, depending on if you're doing individual or maybe a same game parlay. And Ish Smith jumps out right away as far as his assists. Over 4.5, you can get that at plus money on DK. And then Alex's free projection on there gives him a real full assist gap between the two. So that's a strong play for me, while I can find some value in a game that normally I would just breeze by.
Yeah, Ish Smith. This is kind of the thing. I know that this really sticked out over on Odd Shopper. Stood out, should I say? Sticked out. That's the dumbest expression I've ever used on these shows. And I've said some dumb things, but Ish Smith is in a point guard timeshare with Raul Neto. It's not the most intriguing spot. This is really just kind of looking at getting plus money on something that, 5 assists still gets you there. 4.5 seems like a pretty low number. He's at a pretty high assist rate here in the early going, but we don't have a ton of sample size here. You got to put a number out that's kind of available for it. I get a little bit worried knowing that 20 minutes is definitely on the table if Raul Neto comes out and starts, and he gets the first crack at playing well. Ish Smith can come out in relief duty and maybe play 24, 26, 28 minutes if he's on the better side of it, but not the most intriguing spot for me. I understand why Odd Shopper is definitely jumping out for it, but just kind of thinking about that rotation, I think we can do a little bit better on the board today.
Absolutely. And let's do that, my friend, and keep it moving here. We'll go to Boston as the Celtics are seriously cooking right now. Atlanta is in the house. So looking at this game just as a whole, kind of on the surface, I know it's at 6.5, maybe a bigger number for people. You do have that hook and play on that second full possession at 6. I don't mind it by any means, just based on the trajectory in which Boston has been going recently. Yeah. Probably stay away from that total as a whole. But look, if there's just an outside play here, I don't mind at all. In fact, I'd put a 2-star play and lay the 6.5 for Boston at home to win this game.
I don't hate that at all. If I had to pick a side, I'd definitely be laying the points too here against Atlanta without John Collins. We've seen Capella not really be there offensively the way that he might have been in some spots last season. This absence of John Collins has really been a problem. He's doubtful here for this game, just in the same way that I don't assume Marvin Bagley's playing. I don't assume John Collins is playing. That's what doubtful means. So I'm with you, 6.5 points. Boston's playing like they're playing some real basketball right now, and people are starting to notice a little bit here and there. Al Horford's playing big minutes. For me, if I'm not going to go to the total here, minus 6.5, I think one of the best bets on the board, my 4-star play. I have no 5-star plays today, but I've got a 4-star. Okay. That's the over on Al Horford, 9.5 points here. And if you just go box score watching, you're saying, oh, well, that's not super intriguing. It's not like he goes over this number very often. So I know people are going to have those kind of takes where, you see 8, 11, 19, 6, 8, you've got 3 of his last 5 going underneath this number of 9.5. But this is just a fantastic opportunity in terms of what those minutes are. And minutes are gold with Al Horford because he will be more active shooting the basketball. He's going to get a lot of open looks. He's not even the third option on his basketball team anymore. He's sitting behind Robert Williams. And obviously you've got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum here in this rotation. But Al Horford at least is attempting some shots. He's had double-digit shot attempts in 2 of his last 3 here. Coming off of the break, or right before the break, 34 minutes, but then 32 and 37 minutes alongside Robert Williams. That is just gold. You're starting to see Grant Williams play fewer and fewer minutes here. I mean, he played 34 last time out. He's just like in the corner standing there. But some of these other guys that are coming in and shooting the ball, Derek White, obviously can take a little bit off the top here. But against Atlanta, the absence of John Collins, there's not really anything hindering looking at some shot attempts from this position. So I think Al Horford stands out as a guy that shouldn't be projected underneath double digits, and getting plus money, just kind of flat money there. Feels like a really great spot for a guy who's projected 2.1 points higher than what this total is, or this 9.5 number is.
I love the gap. And I think just building off of that, for me, a guy like DeAndre Hunter, and again, OddsShopper loves this play. You can find it just really under plus money. Minus 103 on the board where I am, at least in PA. And just to put that out there as a qualifier, we're all in different areas. So depending on where you're looking at, what state it's legal in. But Hunter at 13.5 to go over that and not lay really anything significant. Alex has him projected at 16 points. This is a great opportunity for him in this matchup. Look, I don't have Atlanta doing really much of anything in this game. They may hang for a little bit, but not winning this game. You mentioned the absence of Collins, just Boston, the added depth with White. They're a tough team to beat, especially now at home. But there's a good scoring opportunity, at least for Hunter in this game. So from an individual standpoint, that's where I would look from what OddsShopper also backs. It's pretty good data that they'll provide to this thing going over. If you wanted to take a risk here, and I think you can still get this at a pretty good gap between, what's on Penny, for example. But if you looked at Herter's steals and blocks stocks and went over 1.5, you're going to get that around plus 185 or so. That's a sneaky little play there, Eric Lindquist, especially because you're over what you're getting at that main book overseas.
Alex Baker's been very, very quick to recognize what these blocks and steals props can be for you in the market. Somebody asked a question, what do you think on Time Lord? Well, Time Lord is always a guy that is going to be projected a little bit higher than what you want. You're really looking at playing some of these blocks and steals points or some of these plays. You're looking at doing them on like the unknown guys who have crazy amounts of money coming in one direction or the other. The under on 0.5, when you talk about a single game parlay, which I was in Arizona this last week and I had the opportunity to see what everybody's talking about with some of these single game parlays and why they like them so much. I think the addition of him, like Kevin Huerter, the under of 0.5 blocks, if you can do that or parlaying some of those together, makes some sense rather than, looking at going to a guy like Time Lord, where a lot of those props are a little bit more accurate just because you're going to see bigger numbers on him. One of the best blocks and steals guys in the NBA. His defensive player of the year odds are just consistently rising because of what he's able to do in those categories. That makes it hard to bet in. Easier to play in DFS. He's, been a guy who put up a double. He's been a double machine here of late. I believe he's had a double in 5 of his last 6. As I was researching that earlier today, which matters. 7,200 on DraftKings, really, really expensive and way overpriced. But with that stocks upside, always has a ceiling. So in the prop market, probably not a guy that I'm looking to target whatsoever because of how efficient those numbers are compared to some of these guys that get like plus 300 for an over on 0.5 blocks, or under minus for Kevin Huerter minus 250 on an under of 0.5.
Yeah, and I'm going to combine both, go over 1.5 on the stocks at plus 185. But if you just wanted to go on one category, then you can take that, and it's a great way to same game parlay. I'm going to take that risk, plus 185 to go over the 1.5 stocks. Anything else here? We got to move to Brooklyn in a second, but anything else lingering here in this game?
Yeah, but I mean, this is the odd shopper beginning portion of the program, so I can talk about prize picks. I've had a lot of fun playing over on prize picks here, and somebody talked about the taco at 7.5. We have Trae Young projected underneath 9 assists, but at least it's a full assist difference getting that taco. Yeah. So Taco Tuesday, they always offer something where you're able to play a discounted line on a guy. It's only a 16% decrease there to Trae Young. He's a good play. I still think that there might be a couple better ones coming up a little bit later. So I have a prize picks play for you today. Hang tight there, Parker Douglas. I got you.
All right, Brooklyn's at Toronto. It's a large line as expected here. Totals at 218, liked it a little bit higher, but now at 218. So just looking at this game, look, Toronto has had its struggles. They've had their issues, but Kyrie or not, I just don't know how you can trust Brooklyn at this point. So if it's under 10 points, even under 9.5, I feel like it's somewhat of an opportunity to play. Probably stay away from that total only because Toronto could put 130. Like Brooklyn is terrible against guarding the 3 over the last 3 games. They're the worst team in the league against 3-point percentage. Meanwhile, Toronto, we know Van Vliet or not, they have the ability to launch. They are taking pretty much on average, at least over the last couple of games. So this has a chance to go over, but at the same time, I can't count on Brooklyn really to pick up their own slack. So I'm going to stay away. I'm leaning just to lay the 9 at home for Toronto, but I'm not playing. So it's a 1-star play for me to lean the 9 at home, Toronto.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot because recency bias can be a thing. We saw what happened yesterday. It did not go well for the old Brooklyn Nets. And part of me really wanted to bet, looking at taking the points here on Brooklyn and capitalizing on some of these, the recency bias that might exist here just from yesterday to today being different. But Toronto could upgrade their team today by adding Fred VanVleet if he's able to play here in this spot. That's a little bit better than Malachi Flynn being out there. OG Anunoby, he's been upgraded to questionable as well. They could be a healthier team and on a back-to-back here. Same matchup, same spot. You could be looking at major problems here for this Brooklyn team on their back-to-back here. Now going into Toronto. Yeah, it's a lot of stay away for me here. I don't really see a whole lot I want to go to. If you want to try to take advantage, a lot of the props are off the board that I would want to take advantage of here for Toronto and try to react to some of that news quickly. But since they're not there, I don't think there's a ton to talk about here. It's probably the biggest stay away game for me on the board.
Yeah, look, I don't want to touch, me. I'm always looking for some value on the 3-point market. Seth Curry and Patty Mills, like there's just nothing. They're way too inconsistent. And they're not even getting enough volume for either one of these guys to knock down 3 threes. Neither of them, are at plus money, so it's not worth it there. And look, Gary Trent Jr. over 3.5. I don't know what the volume is going to be like. Granted, Brooklyn is so bad against the 3 as of recent. And then it's like, Barnes and Siakam. So without Van Vliet in there, you're not really getting much return. So it's not so much for people out there thinking like, oh, they're just staying away. There's not really any value on the player prop side as much as there isn't on the team and total side. Now, Odd Shopper is always going to provide something here for you. So if you wanted to take advantage of maybe fading the Brooklyn Nets, you could do so, right, from that standpoint. But there are a couple that, maybe Siakam, for example, under 22.5 points, minus 120, you're laying a little bit there. But we have him projected on site at 20.5 points. So that's a little workable between that gap.
Yeah. It's so hard. If you sort by best projected ROI, the top play on the board, Scotty Barnes blocks, only has a 21% expected ROI. for me, that just spells stay away. We have so many other game environments where we're able to get plays over 30% expected ROI. I don't really want to be trying to put my hard-earned money on Scotty Barnes, the difference between, 0.2 blocks here when the number's already efficient, 52% expected win percentage on the under of that, because he either goes 0 or he goes 1 most of the time here. And that just kind of, for me, creates a thing where I don't want to get in the habit of flipping coins. If I did that, I would just take my money, go to a roulette wheel, and I would put it on red. That's what I would do. So that's the closest to a 50-50 you're going to find here. I don't really want to do that. I want to find better opportunities, 60% plus win percentages, or, if the numbers are right, obviously I just want to get above that 25% expected ROI threshold.
All right, the next game we have here, Clippers laying some points now against the Rockets. And if you wanted to find maybe some opportunity here to take Houston, and again, this is where Odd Chopper, you go to betting resources, you can compare everything from an NBA side, point total, first quarter as well. I'd be looking at maybe I know I can get points, but just looking at the first quarter for Houston, maybe this is a steal opportunity. They're plus 140 at home on the money line as far as the first quarter spread. If you just wanted to get points, you're getting a bucket, not a full bucket, but you're getting 2 at around minus 115. If there was anything I would look at, it would be Houston kind of attacking and maybe stinging first and taking advantage of that first quarter. Not even the first half, because I don't think they can outlast at that point. But I'm biting. I'll throw 2 stars down there at the first quarter money line / 2-point spread for Houston.
I love this game a lot more than I even think Odd Chopper does. And
really?
And I think I'm going pretty heavy on points props across the board. You can get Nicholas Batum. He's not available on Prize Picks. So here's my Prize Picks that I'm starting a lot of lineups with. They're going to be, or a lot of my cards with, if you will, depending on how you want to look at it. I'm playing 2 or 3 of, in just about every single spot, the over of 17.5 points for Marcus Morris, the over of 19.5 points for Reggie Jackson, and 13.5 points for Terrence Mann. These 3 are the guys who are completely immune to most game scripts here. Now, 27 minutes is on the low end for what we've seen of Terrence Mann. That's his lowest minutes allocation since the 8th of February here. A lot of games since then where he's playing a lot of backup point guard. That last game they played against Houston, I don't see it staying underneath 100 again. I would be absolutely floored if Houston was held under 100 points here again. And I think that everybody's kind of under projecting every single Clipper here as a result of that. I mean, this is a total that's bordering nearly 230. I mean, you're at 227.5 across the industry. And because of last game, I think what's happening is a lot of projection systems around the industry, not necessarily ours. I think we probably have the best projections when it comes to looking at the Clippers here for this output. I mean, Houston is number 1 in terms of pace here for the season. And then you add it to the fray that they give up the most fast break points of any team in the NBA. And the Clippers, I want to get those 3 guys that are going to just be outrunning here constantly. Reggie Jackson and Terrence Mann specifically, 2 guys that I have absolutely starred to play the over of these points props. And then putting Marcus Morris in simply because I believe in the half-court offense. He's going to be the guy for this basketball team going forward. Just an effective shooter in the corners and has an opportunity to really do whatever he wants out there. Reggie Jackson's been the guy, but I think every single Clipper here, even Zubats, if you want to start talking about that, I think they all make sense as guys that on Prize Picks, I'm looking at hitting the over, correlating them a little bit. There aren't many guys on the other side. You got to play somebody from the other team in some spots, but we've listed off a number of other guys that we can be rostering, whether it's Al Horford or whomever else. So a lot of ways to go here and combine these Clippers together.
Look, Houston is awful. We talked about Brooklyn being right there at the bottom. There are only 6 teams over the last 3 games that are giving up 40% or better from 3 on the outside. Houston is one of them. You mentioned the pacing up and down, the opportunity of more possessions for the Clippers. And I love going over points for Reggie Jackson. That was one of your trio there to go over the points of Reggie Jackson. So for me, I'm just going to take that and kind of narrow it a little bit and go over his threes. I saw you shaking your head. You knew exaczly where I was going.
No, somebody called me related
threes.
To Ben Shapiro. I don't like that. Don't bring
who's
that in.
Ben Shapiro?
Don't. Yeah. Politics.
Is that
People
an actor?
Bringing politics now. He's something. He's a human that exists.
Wait. Is this like so there are 3 guys that have the first initial C and then the last name Kirk. and two of them, right? Like one plays for the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, and then I guess there's some political guy named Charlie Kirk or Chris Kirk or some shit like that. I don't know. So apparently on one show, I referred to the guy in the Cardinals by accident as him. And I got, what are you talking politics? So see, you can't escape it even when you try, even when you slip up. It's some idiot.
Yeah. I think
you don't look like, I just Googled him. You don't look like Ben. You don't look like Ben Shapiro.
What planet are we on? We're going to
look like Jeff Shapiro. Now, here's the thing.
So that plays into the narrative that he's my brother. So that's not ideal.
Exactly. Reggie Jackson over 2.5 threes. Plus, look at that. Plus 135. He's projected for 2.9. He's averaging 5.3, but he's taken 6 in 2 of his last 3, 8 before that, even though there was a donut next to it. So all I need is volume for these 3-point props. And I'm adding, again, I'll tell you what the Lakers bump is coming up. This is the Rockets bump here, where the pacing / poor defense should bump him up back to 7.5, maybe 8 attempts tonight. That's enough to get to 3 makes. So that's why I'll go over. Plus money is the bonus there.
Yeah, I love that play. I love getting to him in pretty much any capacity here. The Robert Covington one really sticks out here. I think the Clippers can just fluctuate that closing group and what they're doing with this lineup so much that, again, as much as it stands out there, I'm probably looking to stay away. I don't have to bet things that I don't want to bet. And I think Robert Covington props are extremely volatile. And I think there's better places to go. And Reggie Jackson 3-pointers, it's a guy who's going to be on the floor a lot tonight. And I love that play.
All right, next game here as we hit this Minnesota Warriors game. Golden State's been slumping a little bit coming into this, right? Losing 3 of their last 4. Minnesota's on the second leg of a back-to-back. They put a lot out there to win that game. It was a shootout, but they had to put a lot out there to win that game. So looking at this as a whole, I took advantage of Minnesota. I like Minnesota in the first half just to win this game. So I'll lay points or I'll take them on the money line, knowing that it's pretty much getting a decent return. But I like Minnesota just to take advantage. They're playing well after last night. Golden State, on the other hand, still trying to get themselves. No Klay Thompson. Jordan Poole was atrocious. Steph has been up and down. So I like at least Minnesota come. I can't count on the Wolves to close this thing out, but I can count on them to get ahead in the first half.
Yeah, I like the over on Steph Curry assists a lot here. 7.5. We've seen him kind of take over this facilitator role the last 2 games. Yeah. Now, we have enough of a sample size of Steph Curry being out there kind of just chucking at will. But this iteration of this team now, we've seen some like major double-digit assist spots. And I saw a ticket that you had online. Don't try to say that you don't like this. You love this game. And I mean,
I was trying to go to you so that you could take your time and expand. And I'm not trying to bury the lead. This is you're the analyst. This is your time to shine.
I know. Well, no, come on now. Steph Curry, though, is a guy that's been distributing at a high clip, 14, 10 assists here. And it's been pretty interesting to watch this progression for him. He's trying to help this team win basketball games, and he's starting to realize that him chucking it from 35 feet isn't always the way. Shout out the Mandalorian. This is the way. But Steph Curry, over 7.5 assists, stands out on OddsShopper. It stands out on my board too.
All right. So I have a couple of plays here. 5-star play for me tonight. Over 1.5 threes for Patrick Beverley, minus 104. I got in earlier. Might be 106. Averaged 2.2 makes off 5.3 or 4 attempts in the month of February. He's a sneaky play at the very least. This should be minus 110 to minus 115. Minnesota launches. Look, note they're third in the NBA as far as attempts over their last 3 at 41 attempts. It's not just Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell. So Patrick Beverley should get plenty here against Golden State, enough to get me to 2. So that's my big one. If you wanted to take a risk, it's a little bit more of a volume play because of no Klay Thompson. Jordan Poole struggled a little bit. I think you're going to get enough looks for Gary Payton II to hit 2 threes. It's a long shot play in the sense that you're getting, plus 2 money, 230 or so back on it. But it's something to take a look at because of either struggles around him or not having Klay. And again, he's going to have the volume against a team in Minnesota that likes to get up and down and shoot threes. So love Beverly over 1.5 makes. Definitely a long shot, but something to keep an eye on as far as Payton making 2.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think out of the ticket that you posted there, I think we're on the same page with Curry. I like the over on 1.5 threes for Karl Anthony Towns. I like the over 1.5. I can't remember who the other guy. I literally like every single one except for the Patrick Beverley over 1.5.
Why?
He's having the worst season from three statistically by a landslide, actually. His worst shooting season that he's ever had in his NBA career, shooting 34.2% from three. He's facing the number one team in defensive rating. They prevent teams from making the most three-pointers out of any team in the league. And Golden State holds opponents to 33.4% shooting from three, which is second in the NBA. So for me, I think I would want plus money on Patrick Beverley.
Here's the thing. The volume for Beverley, especially over the month of February, is much different than what he's doing earlier in the year. He shot 40%, nearly 41%, and it came with an increase of looks. Look, he never had 5 attempts average on any other month. That factors into what he's shooting for now. And the only thing I'll add to this here is that while I would love to get plus money, you're still right on the other side of it. And Golden State is actually, over their last 3 games, a little tick below their season average defending. So there's a little bit of an opportunity. That's all I'm saying, Lindquist.
Okay. Over 1.5. Let's put a little side wager on you and me over and under the 1.5 here. We'll figure something out.
What do you want?
We'll get
Philly cheesesteak.
Oh, it's Chipotle bet. It's a Chipotle bet.
Chipotle. I think we could do better than chain food, don't you? I mean, you're like
nice steak dinner.
DFS.
How about that? Let's go.
Wait a second. You're a ranked DFS player.
Chick-fil-A.
I'm struggling to hit a parlay. You're telling me that we're making a bet on Chipotle? Like, you send me some Omaha steaks or something.
Okay, we'll figure something out. The DMs are open, my friend. The DMs are open. We'll get locks before lock show in. We'll get it set up.
Dallas at LA. Couple of plays, right? Yeah, hit us. What should we do here? Surf and turf? Like, we'll take suggestions as we hit this last game. What the bet?
He's still going to make like 8 threes today. It's just ridiculous. It's still going to happen.
Can't wait. I'll be watching that thing.
Oh God!
All right, so last game here. Take it away, and then I'll end with a couple of plays that I like. Actually, you know what? Why don't I do that? Let me get mine out of the way, and then you can take some time here before we get out of here.
Mine's
it's
quick.
Simply, it's 2 LeBron James over 2.5 made threes. There's volume here. Dallas likes to go. You like it too. You can expand a little bit more on that. Look, this is a little bit of a risk, but it's the Lakers bump. The Lakers are not good defending the three. Luka's gone 3 of blank, filling in for a couple of straight games here. I anticipate 1.5 more attempts, at least for Luka tonight. 4+ threes is going to get you a good payout. So I'm willing to take that risk. Those are my 2.
Yeah, LeBron James coming off of embarrassing outings. This feels like a decade and a half sample size we have of this. But LeBron James is a ridiculous human being when it comes to thinking that they're toast and in the water. He finds a way to have these crazy bounce back games. I think that so long as he is on the floor tonight, he is going to be chucking and trying to create and try to do everything for this team. Plus, 3 of his last 8 3-point attempts. I mean, 2.5, you're getting plus money, plus 120 on it. It checks all the boxes for somebody that, in a bounce back spot that LeBron James shouldn't be plus money here for this kind of projection. That's why he's projected nearly 3. That would be like an even money. You're getting that $20 number. So really love LeBron as well.
Hit that thumbs up button, please. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe here. We have the Odd Shopper channel as well. A lot of content over there, on-demand stuff. Golf stuff is up for the Arnold Palmer. You've got college basketball tips, everything there. Lucas List, you heard it here. Oh, Glover, and then Luke List. You heard those 2 Lukes. All right, get out of here, man. Appreciate it. At Eric Lindquist, at Shander Show. Thanks to Jordan. Deep dive coming right now, then live before lock. You don't go anywhere. Appreciate that. Hopefully you can cash some tickets tonight. You don't like Glover?
I like Glover.
Top 40?
scare me. Jordan's got the blowout going today. You used a hair dryer? Yeah? No, you didn't. Oh, you really did? Huh. Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Jock Market. I'm Dave Loughran, your host at Loughy_D on the Twitters, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS, breaking down a 6-gamer on this wonderful Tuesday night for you. What's good, bro?
How's it going, man? Hopefully today goes a little bit better than yesterday, because yesterday sucked.
Yesterday was frustrating. Yeah. Sabonis, particularly. I messaged you about that yesterday, too, because I had a lot of overs on him, including DFS. And it's like the guy still, despite what do you have, like 46 turnovers, but despite losing a good 7 minutes, you could tell that he was still pacing a great foul trouble. So tilting when it comes to NBA, like when it affects you net, because sometimes it affects you positively and it's great, right? You've got an under. Well, I know. It's actually a great point. It never feels
like overtime. It has never benefited me.
No, that's a good point. I was gonna say though, with betting too, right? Like you have an under on a guy, and if he gets in foul trouble, that's great. But you're right. I can't think of the last time I've actually benefited from that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like it happens. But like every time I notice foul trouble, it's because my guy is in it. And every time there's overtime, it's because I don't have those guys. Like I can't remember a single time.
It's very true. That's all right. And I mean, look, I'll take the L on marking it. I'll take the win on the fact that I was right about both of us were right about his minutes. The guy played 35 minutes. He was just as bad as you could possibly be across 35 minutes.
Yeah, we got the Bulls lawyer marking.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's funny. You foreshadowed that. You almost mushed it on the strategy show, just being like, yeah, remember when they used to tell him he needs to shoot more?
Yeah, well, I used to play him constantly because he'd always be low owned and the minutes would be there. And it'll just be like, hey, if he decides to shoot, he's going to be good. And he just never would. 7
field goal attempts in over 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Bad stuff.
Wasn't great.
But hey, guess what? The great thing about this is we can have some amnesia when it comes to basketball. It's a new game, a new slate every single day. And we're here to talk about it. So happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up. What are we at? 159, 41 away from 200. I mean, we're getting the 500. Josh and I put on a real showing yesterday, Jordan, getting up over 1,000 before we closed it out on Live Before Lock. Yeah, make us proud. But yeah, in all seriousness, glad you guys are here hanging out today. Celebrate, commiserate, whatever it is. On to a new day. Subscribe to the channel if you want to join down below. Hit that join now. Get the free super chats each month, the custom emojis. They're pretty cool. Badges, of course. There's 12-month badges coming up, and we'll always prioritize your comments and questions along with our Discord members. All right, man. First things first, as I ask you every single slate, how do we look at this from a star scrubs balance standpoint? What are we doing from a breakdown in terms of roster construction?
Well, for one, we're still waiting on some pretty significant news with Toronto in particular, but
what? And the OG news, I thought he was out. Like I thought this guy was out for a while.
Yeah, I thought I thought he was too. But yeah, so I mean, we're waiting on Toronto news that's going to have a big impact as far as value opening up. We're waiting on Minnesota, where you could potentially get some value opening up with Edwards and Vanderbilt questionable. But I think basically at the top you have Luka, and then like a little step down to LeBron, and then Curry and Trae Young and stuff. So like I think there's a very clear top guy if you want to pay up. Then there's a relatively strong, a few guys in that next tier down. There's some value available regardless, but overall, I think that this slate is kind of wide open because if the questionable guys play, the pricing, at least on DraftKings, is actually pretty sharp in most spots today.
It really is. Honestly, I did not think Anunoby was going to be active today. We don't know. He was upgraded to questionable, but didn't you get the impression that he was out for, at least another game, right? Wasn't he upgraded from out to questionable today?
Yeah, I think based on one of the Toronto beat writers, because somebody kind of said to him, like, why is OG questionable? And he was like, because they haven't ruled him out. And the beat writer basically said that he was supposed to like see a specialist or something, and that apparently, I guess, he got good news.
Okay. Well, that could be good. It could be bad for us, depending on how it breaks. We'll see. Got the Mavs against the lifeless Lakers team that we'll talk about, with Luka getting a lot of ownership. And if one thing stands out to me, Adam, it's that right now, the two of the three highest projected owned players on DraftKings, at least, are value options from Washington, who go by the names of Daniel Gafford. I get that, even though he's shooting like 15 for 16 over his last two games. He's really cheap, plays at in the front court. We like that. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Look, I'll be honest. I never feel great about that when KCP is getting 26%.
Yeah, me neither. He kind of feels like a different level of chalk than Gafford. And it's not to take anything away from KCP, because like I think he is a good play. But yeah, I think there's like more, at least the way things look right now, there's more pivots available for KCP than for Gafford, I think.
All right. Yeah, Michael, you're right. Toronto has been tilting with the injury news lately. Going back to Saturday when Nurse said that Van Vliet was likely to, or not likely to play. And then he played. And then he didn't play. And now they're on the second of a back-to-back. But let's kick it off with that Detroit-Washington game. We'll start with the road team in Detroit. Then we can talk about Gafford, KCP, and the rest of that Wizard squad. But when it comes to Detroit today, and the first guy I guess to talk about is Isaiah Stewart. And then I just want to see if we have an update, because we hadn't updated for a few hours. We still haven't. So I think you're going to see some changes here, given that Marvin Bagley is doubtful now, Adam. And we saw Kelly Olynyk, gotta love it, with that huge walk-off buzzer beater, 24 minutes in that game. Granted, he only came in because I think, didn't Stewart foul out late in overtime?
I don't remember.
Okay. Either way.
No,
Kelly
Stewart
Olynyk go ahead.
Wait. Oh, I don't know. I think the game log I'm looking at is wrong.
For who?
Detroit, because it doesn't have Olynyk playing in overtime.
Well, he played like the final 2 seconds. It's probably not showing.
Oh yeah, I see it. There's little.
Yeah,
sliver.
he knocked down the game winner, and he just came in cold off the bench.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize he had just come in.
Stewart didn't foul. I guess they probably just wanted another shooter out there. That's probably all it was. But anyway, if Bagley sits and he's doubtful, Hamidou Diallo also doubtful. We can get into if that has any impact. What does that do for guys like Olynyk and Isaiah Stewart in this front court?
So I think it starts with the caveat that you can never really say anything with certainty about Detroit's rotation, because this isn't a good team. They're not playing for anything. They can do a bunch of random stuff. But we did see Kelly Olynyk play 24 minutes without Bagley last game. Now, Frank Jackson was also out, but Hamidou Diallo was in and played 24 minutes. So if Diallo, who went from doubtful to questionable, if he were out, I think it's likely you're getting 24 minutes or so from Olynyk. If he's in, you still could get 24 minutes from Olynyk, because Isaiah Livers played like 13 minutes. He could just disappear. Those minutes go to Frank Jackson, and then you basically get the same rotation. I think that would be pretty likely. But the more bodies that are available, obviously the riskier Olynyk becomes. He also jumped in salary on DraftKings by $1,200, so that adds risk as well. But if he's going to play 22 to 24 minutes, he's at least a decent option here. And then Isaiah Stewart, obviously doesn't have the power forward eligibility that Olynyk does, but he's typically been playing around 30 minutes when he's not in foul trouble. If he gets 28, 30 minutes here against Washington at 5K, I think he's a pretty high upside option.
Yeah, that's an interesting spot right now, because we already have him getting double digit ownership. Nothing crazy, but Stewart is at least one of those guys. I mean, look, let's be honest. Isaiah Stewart would still be a much better play than Kelly Olynyk now that they're almost the same price. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know, at least a safer option. But I guess if you're looking for upside, then Kelly Olynyk's viable. Anybody else you have for Detroit that you like?
Not really. Like if you get to a little bit of Cunningham, Bay, Grant, that's always fine. But It's pretty tough. Like their salaries rose a little bit. Grant still just isn't really playing more than 30 minutes. I thought that he would last game with Bagley out, but still didn't play. I mean, he did, but that was with 5 minutes in overtime. Just so it's tough to prioritize him. There's not much that really stands out to me from Detroit.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's flip it to the other side of this one then. I did want to see what Olynyk was priced at on. He's 14 on Yahoo too. I thought he might be minimum salary, but he's not. 5,000 on FanDuel. For Washington, though, this is where a lot of value is getting pulled from against this bad Detroit team. You've got Daniel Gafford, like I said, shooting really well the past couple of games, but he's super cheap. Center eligible, but you're getting him at really the best position for value than KCP. All of these guys, though, going all the way down to like a Corey Kispert, are getting a little bit today on a 6-game slate.
Yeah, and I think they should. Like Gafford's the one that clearly stands out, assuming he remains in the starting lineup. You're probably getting 22 to 24 minutes from him. We know he's a good fantasy producer. He's still really, really cheap at 3,600. So he really stands out. But then you get to the wings, and it's just a lot of guys that are cheap and have plenty of opportunities. You know, KCP, 4,400. He's played 7 games now without Beal or Dinwiddie. He's averaging 33.2 minutes per game, 0.8 DraftKings points per minute. That's not anything you're super excited about, but at 4,400, it works. Corey Kispert, shooting guard, small forward, is fine. Rui's probably playing around 22 minutes at 3,400, makes him look fine. You can expect 48 minutes to be split between Neto and Ish Smith. Smith's averaging over a fantasy point per minute since coming to Washington. I expect that to keep up just because he gets to play a bigger role with Washington than he was with Charlotte. So he's someone where even if he plays like 22 minutes, he projects as a decent option at 4,200. And then in those games where he happens to close, he's going to look really good. Similarly, if Neto plays 28 to 30, he looks fine. So I think that pretty much all of those cheap guys are playable. And then we know Kuzma has just been playing out of his mind. I'm pulling the numbers back up now. I think it's like a 28 or 29% usage rate. 28.8% usage rate, 15.8% rebounding percentage, 22.8% assist percentage in 7 games without Beal and Dinwiddie this year, just doing everything across the board. He's handling the ball at times, running point. 9,200, seems like an insane price tag for Kuzma, but he's playing huge minutes and he's doing everything offensively for this team.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. And he's rebounding well as well, which is important. So, man, how many minutes do you give him today? 38 in a close game?
36, 37.
I'm not saying you're projecting him for 38, but we've seen him play 38 in regulation in these competitive games.
Oh, yeah. If the game's competitive, he can get there. I think the projection is 36 or 37.
Right.
Like,
go ahead.
In the games that he's played without them, he's averaged 37.7 minutes per game. But remember, that includes the double overtime game against Brooklyn.
Yeah, he played, 36, I think, in regulation? I think it was. But yeah, he played 46 total. So yeah. Unless he didn't play all of double overtime. Anybody else you want to hit on for Washington?
No, I think that's the whole team. As far as rules go, I don't want Neto and Smith together. I don't know if anybody's even playing Thomas Bryant, but I certainly wouldn't want him in the same lineup as Daniel Gafford. Other than that, I think you could set like either like a max 1 of Kispert Avdia or a max 2 of Kispert Avdia KCP.
Okay. Michael said, I just can't play Kuzma over Siakam. 3 Washington players feels gross. We'll get to Siakam. I understand the sentiment. Siakam he's looked bad. I don't know what it is with him. I'm sure it's probably nothing, right? I know he dealt with an illness, but my God, yesterday was brutal for him in a game that they just routed Brooklyn. It was all Scotty Barnes, but we'll get there. Let's talk about Atlanta and Boston first. We can kick it off with Trae Young, his Hawks, 6.5-point dogs, 226.5 total. As far as Atlanta goes, though, with Trae Young, I guess this would be the best way to ask you, right? And sometimes it's easier to contextualize it like this. You have Luka on this slate. You have LeBron, questionable, but for all intents and purposes, you just have to expect he's going to play. You have Steph Curry with no Klay Thompson. You have Towns, Trae Young, Tatum, all of those guys. Kuzma's at 9,200 as well. How does Trae Young slot in just from a prioritization perspective?
So I think he's behind Luka. I think he's behind LeBron. although LeBron is a little bit more expensive. I think he's pretty comparable to Steph for me. We know that with Klay Thompson out, Steph's usage rate goes up. Trae Young, his usage rate goes up without John Collins. He does have a pretty tough matchup against Boston, but still a 110 implied total for Atlanta. 10K, I think, still looks pretty reasonable for Young.
Okay, Edmund, I'm talking about his shooting, not even the fact that he didn't play through the entire game in a blowout. See, I'm talking about his shooting. He's just been shooting dismally. But again, we'll get there. Do you want to talk? First of all, John Collins he's still doubtful, right?
Yes.
So I saw somebody say that he had a chance to play. I couldn't find that anywhere.
Yeah, I saw that too. I haven't seen it. He's doubtful.
I wasn't sure if I was missing something. But if John Collins is out, we now know with the games that he's missed what this rotation for the most part should look like. I mean, Danilo Gallinari still sub 5K. Adam getting a little bit of ownership, but seems like a reasonable play. DeAndre Hunter, Bogdan Bogdanovic can produce solid numbers in the 30 or so minutes that he's going to get. I think every single night these guys, and this matchup's not great, but every single night, these guys, and especially with John Collins out, we can talk about Capella too, but they're all like somewhat viable, right? They just kind of slot in as good, but not great, not bad plays at their prices. Yeah.
I think that ownership plays a big role here. And in the ownership projections we have right now, Kevin Huerter only projected for like 6% at 4,600 on DraftKings. He's not a great option by any stretch. He's averaged 0.7 DraftKings points per minute in the games that he's played without Collins and with Young. He averages around 0.75 DraftKings points per minute with Young on and Collins off the floor in general. But at the same time, we had KCP at like 16% ownership, Huerter at 6 at basically the same price point. I think KCP projects a little bit better, but I don't think that it's a huge difference between the two. Similarly, you have a $4,600 Huerter, you have a $4,900 Gallo. All of these guys, if they're playing well, are capable of playing into the mid 30s. Same goes for Bogdanovic, who is more expensive at 5,900. One piece that I'm really interested in tournaments, though, is Clint Capella, who's 6,100 on DraftKings, 6,600 on FanDuel, not projected for much ownership right now. And he only played like 18 or 19 minutes last game. I think that maybe scares people a little bit, but even though some of the starters came back late in that game, it was a non-competitive game, and we didn't see a rotation change. I'd be more concerned about Capella's minutes in that game if it had been like Danilo Gallinari got run at the 5 or something like that. But all we saw was that Capella lost a few minutes in the first half because of foul trouble, and then he didn't come back after his third quarter stint, but it was just Okongwu playing behind him. So there's no reason to take anything away from that game other than you're still getting 48 minutes from Capella Okongwu as far as we know. And in every other game, Capella's been getting 28 to 30 minutes. What's kind of weird too is that you would think him getting the single digit ownership that he's pulling right now would be the result of just a stacked center position today. It really isn't. Like, yes, you have Daniel Gafford. I get that. And value is scarce right now. But outside of that, it's just a bunch of guys that are, for the most part, value options. Just talking about like the only center eligible guys, right? Isaiah Stewart, Dwight Howard, Kevon Looney, Daniel Gafford. Those are the highest owned centers. It's not like you have a Jokic or an Embiid on this slate or any of these other guys, even in the mid range, that are pulling a lot of ownership. I mean, shit, Al Horford's getting 15%. Yeah, center's a weird position because there's a lot of options. It's just not high-end ones. Right. In addition to the ones you mentioned, you have Zubats at like the same price tag. I like him Capella. A lot. What'd you say? I like him a lot. Tonight. Yeah, so do I. You have Robert Williams on Boston. There's a lot of center options. So I understand why the ownership's low, but at the same time, I mean, you can certainly get a big game from Capella at this price. I think so too. Who do you like more, Capella or Zubats? Just Zubats. Outright. Zubats. Yeah, me too. But Capella seems okay at this price, especially if he's going to come in around 8%. Yep. Hey, what about Boston for you? If you're talking about Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, all of these guys today in what should be a relatively high scoring game. I mean, I think Tatum. This is a conversation you and I have all the time. It's always difficult to prioritize him, but the guy has the 60 plus fantasy point upside, and we've seen him do it at relatively low ownership. Not to say that he's coming in unowned today, but is he someone that you want to get to a little bit in a game that could stay competitive and be high scoring? Yeah, I think he's a little bit easier to get to on a slate like this too, because I mean, one, it's only 6 games, but 2, you don't have quite as many pay up options. And of the pay up options, the only one that really seems like a can't miss type play is Luka. And he's, obviously considerably more expensive than Tatum. But you also don't have quite as much opportunity cost at the forward positions either, I don't think. You have, a lot of good guard options. You have all the center options that we were just talking about. So it opens up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both as I think just being a little bit easier to get to tonight than they normally are. Tatum's averaging over 36 minutes per game in the games he's played with Brown. Brown is around, I think, 35 minutes per game, both well over a fantasy point per minute, and they have one of the highest implied totals on the slate. So I think it's just a little bit easier to get to them today than it normally is.
So I got to ask you about Al Horford. He is Al Horford. And I mean, that says really all you need to know about him, right? The one thing that stands out is the minutes have been significant lately. 34, 32, 37. He's kind of all over the map at times, but recently you have seen a lot more playing time from him, which is really something you need if you're going to be playing Al Horford at a high clip.
Yeah, they, rested him last game, but prior to that, 37, 32, 34 minutes for him. So I don't want to get too comfortable with Al Horford getting a ton of minutes, but he has been trending in the right direction. And it's also worth noting that over the last month, he's averaged over a fantasy point per minute. Normally, I don't care too much about what's been going on over the last month unless you're talking about someone whose role has changed, and his hasn't. But I do think it's worth noting with him because he started this year out really well from a fantasy standpoint, and then he just fell off of a cliff, was averaging 0.8 fantasy points per minute on like a rolling 30-day average. Now he's back up over a fantasy point per minute, so he's playing more, he's playing better. I never going to be super confident in saying I like Al Horford, but I like Al Horford here.
Anybody else for Boston you want to get to?
Throw Robert Williams into the center mix. Played another 33 minutes last game. He's been getting a lot of run, and we know he's a good point per minute guy. Obviously, it's difficult to prioritize him when he's $1,000 more than Zubats, $1,000 more than Capella, and a lot more expensive than all those other guys we mentioned. But just another very high upside option at center.
Didn't realize it was a Disney company.
What?
You could have let that message through, Jordan. I thought it was pretty funny. No, all right. You make the rules behind the controls. Hey, we got free content today, though. NBA player rankings, PGA top golfers for Thursday. And then that's free today, though. And NHL player rankings, all of that free. You don't have to have an account or anything. If you want to dive in, though, get access to everything, top stack tool, the boom bust tool, the lineup builder, everything, right? For football, well, football's done, but we have golf, NASCAR, MMA, NBA. Is MLB officially? What's going on with MLB?
I think Manfred's probably speaking right now, but supposedly no, they're pushing back opening day.
Okay, he's a great guy. I like him. All of that stuff, though, and when we do get MLB, that's in there too. All of our tools, right? Top stacks for all of that, top drivers for NASCAR, top golfers, all of their tools built by Awesemo himself. It's the best stuff out there. You could do a week, you can do a month, you can do one sport, all sports a year. Do an express pass for less than $5 a week. Whatever you want to do, check it out, awesemo.com/join. And you got the Fantasy Cruncher add-on too. If you're looking to take this thing seriously, you can jump on board there as well. So awesemo.com/join. Check it out. All the tools we got, all the articles, you name it, all of it right there in front of you. Brooklyn, Toronto.
We just got the Washington starting lineup. It's what we expected.
Okay. Neto, KCP, Kispert, Kuzma, Gafford. Gotcha. Yep. So Brooklyn, man, got smoked yesterday. Patty Mills continues.
That's an evergreen statement.
Yeah. Patty Mills continues the downward spiral into oblivion. I mean, it's just bad at this point. Ben Simmons remains out until further notice after March 10th. Kevin Durant's out at least a couple more games. And then Kyrie Irving, despite this being a road game, still can't play because they're facing Toronto, Adam. And Drummond and Cameron Thomas are questionable.
Yeah, and I didn't fact check it, but I trust Josh that Steve Nash isn't coaching tonight either. So who knows
Okay.
what the rotations or what that means.
Yeah, well, he was in health and safety protocol, right?
Yeah,
Is he the first player to be putting that in like a month?
first coach.
You know what I mean? Coach or
Yeah,
player.
it seems like it. So yeah, I mean, unless he got cleared and I missed it, but
All right. Well, I guess let's get into it a little bit. Starting at the top, which I'm not necessarily sure there is one right now. James Johnson, top of ownership. James Johnson is still low 4K range. I don't know if this game can stay close, but second of a back-to-back for both of these teams. It's a home and home series. 4,300 though. Despite being 9-point dogs, it's at least worth talking about.
yeah, he's cheap. You can't really take too much away from or anything away from the playing time yesterday. That game just was unbelievably bad. And Johnson did deal with some foul issues in the first half as well. Picked up 2 fouls in the first 30 seconds, ended up subbing out after about 3 minutes. So he only played like 12 minutes in the first half, but I think on average, you're probably getting around 26 minutes, 28 to 28, maybe 30 minutes from him if this game's competitive. At 4,300, that makes him look pretty good, especially if other value doesn't open up. Like he's one of those guys, kind of like the Washington pieces where with the information we have right now, he looks like a pretty good point per dollar value. If you get a bunch of guys on Toronto ruled out and guys on Minnesota ruled out, then relatively Johnson's value is going to drop off a little bit. But the way it looks right now, I think, him being the highest owned guy on this team does make sense.
But you let that comment through, Jordan? Oh, God. All right. Is there anybody else from Brooklyn right now? Because if you ask me, the answer is nobody really stands out. However, if Drummond ends up sitting, that can change a lot. The only issue is that it falls once again into a center position that, like you said, has a lot of guys that are viable, but nobody that really pops outside of maybe Gafford. Talking about Aldridge.
Yeah, I actually like Aldridge quite a bit in tournaments. In the games that he's played with Drummond, he's averaged about 21 minutes per game, 1.16 DraftKings points per minute. But there's a lot of volatility in his playing time, and he's not getting much ownership here. So I think that, in games where you get 24 to 26 minutes from Aldridge, which is certainly possible, he is likely to do really well at 4,500. And his playing time last night was pretty appealing. I know Drummond got banged up a little bit, but Aldridge closed the first half. He played a total of like 14, 15 minutes in the first half. We've seen him close games before. So like Drummond, if he were to play like normal starter minutes, get to 30, he'd be a good play at 6,900, but you don't have that much margin for error there. With Aldridge at 4,500, if he plays 22 minutes, he probably is okay. And if he happens to play 26, then you're in a really, really good spot at low ownership. So I do like getting there. Obviously, the opportunity cost at the position is a bit of an issue, though.
But I mean, there's a legitimate chance that Drummond just doesn't play tonight, too.
Yeah, if Drummond doesn't play, I'm curious to see what the starting lineup is. If Aldridge starts, obviously his ownership goes through the roof, but so does his value.
They might
because
throw Blake back into it or something.
Well, I mean, they could go Claxton too. Like Blake was backing up James Johnson yesterday. Claxton didn't play at all until garbage time. But like the other day, you got like 4 minutes for Claxton at center, and Griffin I think played like the 4 again. So it could be Griffin, it could be Claxton spot starting. But if Aldridge starts, his ownership skyrockets, his relative value goes up, obviously, because it would be a signal that he's going to play a lot. If they were to give a start to like Claxton, I don't really think it changes much for Aldridge. Like there's still a good chance that Aldridge would be out there to close and that he could get, 24 to 26 minutes. It would obviously make him riskier because he's still coming off the bench, but it would also keep the ownership in check.
Would you play Claxton if he starts?
You could play some, yeah, at 4K. I mean, it's still not safe because we don't know how those minutes are going to go. But if you got like if you got a 24-24 split, they would both probably be good.
Okay. Toronto. Here we go again. Same story, different day. Really Saturday, and then yesterday we had to worry about this. Now it's the same today. Fred VanVleet questionable. I mentioned this on yesterday's shows, but I'll throw it out there again. He stated that coming back from the All-Star break, he wasn't where he wanted to be. And then he played. And then he played the second of a back-to-back. And now he's out with that same, knee. So I don't know at this point, Adam. Like, do you hold him out for another game? This is for what it's worth, this is their second they played back-to-backs on, what was it, Friday and Saturday, and then they're playing back-to-backs on Monday and Tuesday. So it wouldn't shock me if, excuse me, if he's out and OG sits again today, and then we have to wonder if Malachi Flynn's in the starting lineup again. I would assume in the same matchup, you would get the same starting lineup that we had yesterday. They smoked them.
Yeah, I mean, especially with how that game went.
Right.
So the way I view this, basically, I have no idea if he's going to play. And one other quick thing, Frank Jackson in, Diallo in, Bagley out for Detroit. So that's pretty much what we had assumed. But with Toronto, I don't have a good feel for what Van Vliet's going to do. If one of Van Vliet or Anunoby is out, then I expect you get the normal, like Kem Birch starts, Achua plays 22, Young plays 22, Boucher plays 22, Trent and Siakam play a million, Barnes plays like 32 or 34. If they're both out, it opens up what I assume is going to be Malachi Flynn value. And the rotations we saw yesterday were very, very good for Malachi Flynn. I really had no idea what to do with him going in. Like I knew at 3K, it was going to be fine, but I didn't know how high to project him because I didn't know if he was going to start, but then they're still going to give more minutes to some combination of Boucher and Young. I didn't know how many minutes Banton was going to play. Banton played 0 minutes in the first half. He didn't play until garbage time, played the entire fourth quarter. You got 33 minutes and 37 seconds from Flynn with and he didn't play the final 10 minutes of the game. So very, very appealing rotations for Flynn. You did get some foul issues for Boucher where Flynn, I think, subbed back in a little bit earlier than he would have in the second quarter. But still, if you're going to get true starters minutes from a $3,100 Malachi Flynn, if Van Vliet and Anunoby are both out, he's going to look like probably the best value on the slate.
For sure. And Birch had 3 fouls in the first 4 minutes.
Yeah. Birch played 9 minutes. I expect him to play 16.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he gets a bit more. He literally had 3 fouls in the first 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So, that's not a great way to start the game out, which is, one of the reasons we saw Precious Achua sub in for him at the 8-minute mark or whatever it was. If Siakam, like you say, going to play big minutes if this game is close, he is shooting miserably since they returned from the All-Star break, but I think you just have to go back there, right? If Van Vliet and OG Anunoby are out, I don't think you have much of a choice. The question is, what if Van Vliet plays? What if Anunoby plays? Does this Toronto team just become insanely less attractive?
Yeah, if they both play, it kind of just turns into tournament darts for me, I think. Siakam and Van Vliet in particular both still look fine. They're not really expensive. If Van Vliet goes, I assume he's not going to be limited. Both guys are sub 9K on DraftKings, so they both look pretty good. We know Gary Trent takes a hit when Van Vliet is in. Scotty Barnes seems like maybe he had hit a rookie wall and is getting over it. But still, at 6K, it's kind of just, a tournament dart. If Van Vliet is out, Siakam, obviously, his assist percentage goes up. 7 games this year without Van Vliet, 28.7% assist percentage, 1.18 DraftKings points per minute. Gary Trent in those 7 games has a 28.7% usage rate. He's averaged 1.1 DraftKings points per minute. So, both of those guys just look better if Van Vliet sits.
Coiba says, why would the coach even play Van Vliet, OG, or Siakam? Because Nick Nurse runs his starters for 40 minutes a game. And
what do you mean? Why would they play Siakam?
What? Yeah, I don't get the Siakam part, but the Fred Van Vliet or OG because he can. That's why. Because he can. Anybody else you want to hit on for Toronto?
No, I think that covered it.
All right. Hey, hit that thumbs up. 54 to 400. We're getting to 500 by the end of this show. It's happening. There's no way we don't. Jordan, new glasses? Yeah? Why don't you give everybody a look? Oh, you're getting quick with this now. Okay. All right. Got the new hair, the new glasses. You got plans tonight? No? Okay. Hey, you should have plans over at Jock Market, though. In the event you haven't signed up there yet, I think you should, because you get $100, up to $100 on your first deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code Awesemo. And they also have a first market guarantee where they'll refund any losses in your first NBA market up to $100. Why not take advantage of that? Over at Jock Market, they've turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange where you can make money down to the hour, down to this very second, as a matter of fact, by buying and selling shares of players in real time for real money. All you got to do is download the app and get started. Use that promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. Get up to $100 deposit bonus on your first deposit. I was going to say they have baseball too, but they have football, which will be back at some point, NHL, NBA, and PGA. And you have a pregame IPO where you can pick up shares of your favorite players. And we got the free Jock Market IPO projections over at Awesemo to help you beat the market. They're entirely free every single day of the week. Use that pregame IPO tool. Use the pregame IPO at Jock Market to buy, sell, and hold players during the game. Download the app, JOCKMKT. Use the promo code Awesemo. Get up to $100 when you sign up, and take advantage of the first market guarantee, where you get up to $100 back if you lose first time you play NBA over there at Jock Market, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, Clippers, Houston. You know what's weird about this, Adam? I'm going to tell you. This is the third game that they've played against each other in their last 4 games.
I'll say it felt like they've been playing each other a lot. I knew they played the last game. I didn't know it was their third.
So day before the All-Star break for the Clippers, and then they played the Lakers, then they played Houston. Now they play Houston again. I think they could smoke them here. They crushed them 142-111 before the All-Star break. And then last game, the Clippers turned the ball over 18 times. Houston turned it over 6 times. Houston leads the league in turnover rate. So that was an anomaly. It's not going to happen again. They still lost and only scored 98 points despite crushing the turnover battle. It's a horrible matchup for Houston because they're a bad offense, and the Clippers don't have a great offense, but they have a top 7 defense. But when it comes to the Clippers from a DFS perspective, we've seen Reggie Jackson putting up some big games recently. Marcus Morris is sub 6K. Terrence Mann is another one of those guys that, since Norman Powell went out, is getting big time extended minutes. What do you want to do with the Clippers today in the best actual matchup on the slate from a pace and defense standpoint?
Yeah, great spot. Pretty good pricing overall on DraftKings in terms of getting it correct. I know Reggie Jackson is still free on FanDuel, but 5,900 for Marcus Morris is fine. He's going to play around 30 minutes, averages just shy of 0.9 fantasy points per minute in the games where Reggie Jackson's active. Paul George is inactive. It was pretty bad last game, but I think you can go right back to him. Reggie Jackson still has a very high ceiling. He has about a 30% usage rate, averages about a fantasy point per minute, and should give you 36 minutes or so. Beyond that, you can't feel too comfortable in playing time. Zubats has been playing a bit more since Ibaka left. He's averaged a little over 25 minutes per game in the games without Ibaka, where George has been out and Jackson and Morris have been in. You've also had some games where he was in foul trouble or it was a blowout. I think that on average, or in competitive games, I should say, you can feel pretty comfortable about him getting at least like 27 or 28 minutes. He's over a fantasy point per minute guy. Very good matchup. Price tag, I think, is still reasonable on him. With the rest of these guys, though, like Amir Coffey at 3,600 certainly could play 24 minutes and be a decent value, especially, again, like if questionable players elsewhere get ruled in and you don't have more value opening up, then taking shots on somebody like Coffey is reasonable, but it's also risky. Like if you look at the last game, he played 25 minutes, but he played a total of 6 minutes in the first half, and then he played the final like 19 minutes of the game. That's a really unsustainable rotation where, like he could just sub in earlier in the first half in some games and still get to 24 minutes. But like if Terrence Mann plays down the stretch, you could easily just get a game where Coffey's playing 20 minutes and you're in trouble. Similarly, somebody like Batum hasn't been playing a lot recently, only played about 21 minutes last game, but he is cheap. He is in a good matchup. If he somehow gets to 24 minutes, he's going to look pretty good. Terrence Mann's playing time fluctuates anywhere from like 27 to 35 minutes. Luke Kennard is, similar in that you can't be too comfortable with his playing time. Played 23 minutes last game. Other games you get 26, 27. So it's just another team where there's going to be good plays from the Clippers most likely, but it's really difficult to pinpoint who they are because a lot of it's kind of going to depend on who's playing well and gets those extra minutes. So like group wise, I don't think you don't want Zubats and Hartenstein. I have trouble wanting more than one of like Kennard, Batum, Covington, Coffey probably.
So you mentioned it, but if you go back, you could go back as many games as you want recently and look at these rotations. You're essentially getting fourth quarters that, like you said, whoever's playing well, or if they're down by, like they were down by 12 the other day against Houston in the fourth, the bench brought them back, and you saw like almost a full out bench effort to close out the game. And that has not just been the case in blowouts where the bench is getting run. It really is. That is the one concern. And it's not just for Batum. Like Terrence Mann has fallen victim to this as well. There's a few guys in this. Zubac is another one. So it's at least something to keep in mind that all of these guys, if they're playing well, and against Houston, it's very possible, assuming they're not up by 30, this could be a spot where they close the game out, I think, save for probably Nicholas Batum. But there are definitely some concerns that if the bench plays well, they'll be out there for the closing minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I don't think that there's a real strong preference amongst like any of these guys, with the exception of Jackson, Morris, and to an extent Zubac. Any of the rest of these guys can be in the closing lineup, basically.
Yeah. And even Zubac we've seen with some volatile minutes at times.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But just the upside, like the ceiling with Zubac is enough to where I'm willing to take that shot against Houston any day of the week.
Also, the fact that this team isn't getting much ownership, like when you look at Luke Kennard at half the ownership of KCP, Robert Covington, Batum, these guys getting much less ownership than your Kisperts and KCPs. It's a situation where like the Washington guys should be higher owned because their minutes are more stable. You can feel more confident. The floor is a little bit higher, but getting that ownership discount and still having access to that, 28, 30-minute game, if everything breaks your way, is pretty appealing in larger field tournaments, especially on a shorter slate where you only have so many relatively low-owned options to choose from that aren't just complete garbage plays. For sure.
Yeah, the low ownership makes it definitely more appealing, but on a lot of those guys, it's crazy though. There's a lot of ways it could go wrong as well, but it's still such a good matchup that with fair prices and not exorbitant ownership, it's worth getting to. Houston's a bit of a different story. Kevin Porter Jr. is questionable. I mean, honestly, if he's out, you have to go right. Even though his prices come up, you have to go back to Schroeder again, right? Like he came up 2 rebounds shy of a triple double last game. Dude has many nights where he just can't shoot for shit. But and we talked about this the other week, right before the All-Star break, where he played 39 minutes in that game. Porter was out. And then against the Clippers, the next game, they lost by 31. He was pacing another 38, 39 minutes and then played 38 minutes 2 nights ago. There's no doubt that if Porter sits and this game is relatively competitive, Schroeder's playing, he's going to flirt again with 40 minutes.
Yeah, he would look very good if Porter's out. And I think that's kind of the only thing that Porter impacts, because, obviously it's a huge bump in playing time for Schroeder. His rates are very, very similar to Porter's. So whereas earlier in the year, if you got a game where Porter was going to sit, you would bump up Jayshawn Tate, you would bump Christian Wood. Now with those minutes going to Schroeder, they kind of just stay the same. Obviously you can make the case that you're getting a little bit more playing time for somebody like Garrison Matthews or maybe Jalen Green. But in terms of rates and production, I don't think Porter's status actually matters that much since he's just being replaced by Schroeder. But if Schroeder does start, he still looks like a very good option at 5,900. 4 games with Houston now, 0.91 DraftKings points per minute, 20.4% usage rate, 38% assist percentage. He's just a pretty solid option if he's going to play, north of 36 minutes.
I'm with you. What about anybody else here?
Not much else stands out to me. Like Christian Wood is obviously playable, but it's just really difficult to get to him because of all of those other centers we talked about. Like when I mentioned Robert Williams, I said he's $1,000 more than Zubac and Capella and several thousand more than like everybody else. Wood's $1,000 more than Williams is. And it's not like he's a significantly better point per minute guy or that he plays a lot more minutes. He's actually getting a little bit more ownership too at 9%. So I don't have any issue with Wood other than I think it's just going to be difficult to get him into lineups. The rest of these guys, Jalen Green, Jayshawn Tate, last guy in type pieces are fine. If Porter and Matthews are both out, I think you probably see a little bit more run for a $3,300 Josh Christopher, a $3,700 Kenyon Martin Jr. Either of those guys could kind of be used as dart throw type value plays.
All right. 4 down, 2 to go. Almost at 500. All right. Hey, if you didn't hit that thumbs up yet, last time I'll ask, I promise. Get the 500. Yeah, we forgive you if you forgot. If you're on the phone, close out of the chat, hit that real quick. Only takes a second. Make us feel better about ourselves. You know how it goes. Really, we just got to feed the algorithm. That's how it works, man. It's the only way to get ahead in this YouTube life. I think Golden State is 3-point or are 3-point favorites. It was 1 because I took them at 1 earlier today, and it's moved to 3, 231.5 total. On the other side, obviously Edwards and Vanderbilt are questionable, but what do you do with a guy like Curry today, where you have no Klay Thompson, Dre's still out, and then you've got some good role players, right? I think there's some decent depth on this team, but is Curry at a price now where it's still a bit prohibitive when you've got a Luka and a LeBron with no Anthony Davis on this slate?
I think it's somewhat prohibitive, but I also
Drummond's
think
out.
that what?
Drummond's out.
All right, so that opens up more value. Cam Thomas available.
Is it just Aldridge for you here, or are we just going to wait on the starting lineup?
Depends on the starting lineup. If Aldridge starts, just play a ton of Aldridge. If like Claxton or Blake start, I think I'm still playing Aldridge, but you know, he'd be riskier because he's still coming off the bench, but the ownership would also be lower.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead. Golden State with Curry.
Yeah, so I mean, Curry's salary still isn't great. You know, like you and I have talked about a lot. He just doesn't offer quite the same peripherals that most guys north of 10K do, whether you're talking rebounding or assists or both. But you don't have quite as many good pay-up options today either. So it just makes it a little bit easier to get to him. He gets a usage bump without Klay Thompson as well. It is kind of interesting. His point per minute production has been about the same, but his usage rate goes up several points. So it's been, you know, a difference in efficiency, but 32.5% usage rate in the 40 games he's played without Klay Thompson this year. He's going to get his shots up. He certainly is capable of being the highest scorer on any slate that he's on. So I think he's fine. I would pay attention to the ownership between him and Trae Young in particular. Right now we have them almost exactly the same though. So I just don't really have a strong preference between the two. Andrew Wiggins, I think, is a pretty solid option at 6,200. He gets a usage bump in the games without Thompson as well. And we've seen him really be hurt by Thompson's presence this year. So he gets back to about a 24% usage rate, makes him look like a pretty good small forward option in the mid-range. Kevon Looney's likely to give you 26 minutes or so at 4,500. He's another quality center option. He's someone too that if LaMarcus Aldridge starts, Aldridge would project better than Looney, and Aldridge will almost certainly be higher owned. So it's the kind of guy where like if you're on a similar build, but you need to save ownership, you could use him in place of Aldridge if Aldridge's ownership does go up. So I think those three look like the priorities for me, but I think you can also mix in some $4,200 Gary Payton II. He's around a fantasy point per minute guy. If he can avoid foul trouble, he's likely to play around 26 minutes. And then Jordan Poole in tournaments. Greg and I talked about him a bit earlier. He's kind of interesting to me as long as the ownership's going to be low. Right now he's at 10%, which doesn't make me feel too great, but he only played 20 minutes last game, but he also didn't close either half, and he was playing really poorly. It's hard to think that if he's playing well, he's only playing 20 minutes. And there were plenty of minutes available. Like Moses Moody doesn't need to be closing halves over Jordan Poole. Damian Lee closed the game instead of Jordan Poole. There's a lot of guys he can take minutes from if he's playing well. So at 5,200, there is at least a ceiling there, although I think the ownership is pretty much there as well.
OG Anunoby's out. I'm just waiting for the Fred VanVleet remains a game time decision tweet.
Yep. Hopefully, I mean, it won't even be that. It'll be Fred VanVleet's a game time decision. He doesn't think he's going to play unless he does play.
Yeah, right.
Then his minutes
will
we
be
monitor.
monitored.
Yeah.
Jake Nunley with a super chat won $600 at the blackjack table last night. Nice. Gonna let it ride on $5,500 all-star starter Andrew Wiggins. No Klay in Minnesota. Locking him in. Prove me wrong. All right, man, go for it. Minnesota, second of a back-to-back today. I got to ask, how big of an impact does it have if Edwards is out or Vanderbilt's out, just in the sense of who do you think starts and what do you think their involvement looks like against this Warriors team?
If anybody is out, well, if one of them is out, I think Jaden McDaniels moves into the starting lineup. If both Edwards and Vanderbilt are out, I assume McDaniels and Taurean Prince start. The Prince piece is kind of just a guess, but that would be my first guess. Vanderbilt's price tag did jump to 4,500 on DraftKings. If he starts, it's likely he's playing 30 plus minutes, so it's playable, but he's also not a particularly good fantasy option. As a starter this year, he has averaged 27.5 minutes per game, only 0.69 DraftKings points per minute. So it wouldn't be like a lock button play or anything like that. But he's 4K, not 4,500. But still, would just look like another decent value in that price range. But the other thing is, like, if Vanderbilt is out, it doesn't have quite as big an impact as Edwards potentially being out would. Maybe you get some more rebounding for Karl Anthony Towns, for example, but Vanderbilt's like a 10 to 11% usage guy, so it's not opening up a ton else. Whereas if Anthony Edwards sits, you're getting more usage for Towns, you're getting more usage for D'Angelo Russell, and it makes both of their ceilings higher.
Van Vliet is out.
Wow, that was early. DJ Wilson also out.
Yeah, let's revisit this just for a second, okay? Because this is big stuff. Wilson out as well. Would he play 6 minutes yesterday? Yeah. All right. So assuming it's the same starting lineup, Malachi Flynn played 33 minutes last game, got legit starter run. Siakam struggled, but he's still a great play. Scotty Barnes was very good. Gary Trent struggled, but I still think Gary Trent's perfectly fine. You're the one that mentioned it on the strategy show. 28, or maybe it was I think it was you. 28% usage rate without Van Vliet and OG Anunoby on the floor this year. So it just opens everything up for Toronto in a very good spot.
Yeah, it really just opens up a ton here. And like you said, the matchup's really good as well. I think it makes Malachi Flynn, assuming he starts again, the clear top value on the slate at 3,100. You can certainly take shots at Achua or Young or Boucher. But, usage bump for Gary Trent, assist bump for Pascal Siakam, 5 games this year where Van Vliet has been out and Siakam's been in. Scotty Barnes has averaged 1.03 DraftKings points per minute. Obviously, that was pulled up drastically yesterday, but he's still only 6K. So certainly some value there as well. This pretty quickly just became the most appealing team on the slate, I think.
How many players from this team are you willing to roster?
I think it's still
the same lineup.
Still 3 probably, because for one, Siakam is still relatively expensive. Not that he's overpriced, but you still need like a legitimate score from him to be happy that you have him. Trent isn't exactly cheap. Barnes isn't really cheap. But then also when you talk about like the front court guys, I would only really want 2 of Boucher, Achua, Young at most anyway, and I wouldn't want more than 1 of Achua and Birch. So yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable with 3.
Yeah. But most of them are in play in some variation. So
yeah. Yep. And I would say Flynn is very clearly the number 1.
Yeah. Flynn's probably the number 1 play on the slate right now after playing that many minutes yesterday. No?
Yep.
All right. Round out Minnesota for me. Just if both of them are out, you talked about that. If both of them are in, what does that do for the Timberwolves?
If both of them are in, it just kind of turns Minnesota into another tournament team where you're not prioritizing guys, but they still have massive ceilings here. Golden State, we know, is good defensively, but this also is likely to be a fast-paced game. Totals north of 230. So $7,400 price tag on Anthony Edwards, $7,600 on Russell. Those are both very reasonable. 5K on Beverly is fine. Towns is just like really, really, really tough to get to. If you build a lineup that has him and you like it, then great. Obviously, he's a very good option. The reason he's so difficult to get to is that you're paying up at a position where there's an abundance of high upside value options and mid-range options, and that's going to force you, to pay down somewhere else where, maybe options are a little bit weaker. But we also did just get a free square point guard value, so maybe that makes it a little bit easier to get to Towns.
I think so too. All right. Let's see here. 1 game to go, 4 minutes. We did pretty well today. I've got to say, did pretty damn well today. The Live Before Lock show coming up next, Eric and Greg. Then you got the post show after 30-minute after show for Jock Market. Had a blast doing that with Josh yesterday as well. We're going to have to do some live streams once the playoffs start. Live stream these games, get them up, watch them together, have some fun, have a drink or 2. Enjoy our night. But yeah, Eric and Greg tonight, hang out with them. If you're not doing anything after Live Before Lock, stick around for that show. And thank you. Well over 500 likes. I knew we'd get there. I won't ask for it again, but I will thank you for it. All right, let's wrap this up, Adam. You have Dallas and you have the LA Lakers. Luka Doncic, very clearly a top play today. And then now the emergence of Malachi Flynn and other value for Toronto is just going to make him even more appealing against a very lifeless Lakers squad.
Yeah, great spot for Luka. He's been playing really, really well without Hardaway and Porzingis. Obviously you have Dinwiddie there, so he kind of cuts into the Hardaway role. But Luka's the top projected player on the slate. It's not particularly close. Right now in our projections, we have Luka just about 8 points higher than all of the next closest guys. So pretty clearly the top pay up option on the slate, projected for 32% ownership right now. So nothing, surprising about that. Makes him look very good. As far as the rest of Dallas goes, I don't think there's a whole lot to be confident in. Jalen Brunson probably playing around 34 minutes if he plays well. 6,500 certainly could get there. Dinwiddie's been playing a bit better and getting more minutes. 5,600. He's in like the Jordan Poole category for me, where I'm not going to be confident, but he certainly has a path to success at only 5,600, and he's only getting 3% ownership. So that's somewhat appealing in tournaments, but very clearly prioritizing Luka and then just kind of mixing in, Brunson, Bullock, Finney-Smith, Dinwiddie as I need to.
Do you have some concerns about the fact that that first of all, Dwight Howard played 17 minutes in the first half of that last game, but do you have some concerns that we just saw a full out, Reeves, Ariza, Howard yanked in the beginning of the third quarter as things started to go completely awry against a Pelicans team that at one point had a 32-point lead? How much of a concern is that today that this rotation, the starting lineup, particularly at center with Dwight Howard, is still very much in flux?
It's somewhat concerning just because the Lakers suck and there's no like reason those guys have to be in the starting lineup. Like, yes, Austin Reeves has been pretty good this year, but it's not like you have to play Austin Reeves to give yourself a chance to win.
And I know they got rid of DeAndre Jordan, but still.
Right. But like Malik Monk and Talen Horton-Tucker could start and nobody would bat an eye here.
Right.
It would probably not be the worst thing in the world, really. So there's that. And then also Dallas, it's not like they have the biggest front court in the world. You could very easily just get, Carmelo or LeBron at the 5, and
we've seen it
Howard
before.
doesn't have to play. So it's risky too, because it's an island game 2 hours after every other game locks. So like if you have a lot of Dwight Howard and he's not starting, you're in trouble. But for now, I'm assuming that he starts and it makes him look decent. I still think he's behind several other options though.
So do I, especially on a slate where you are, like you said, you have really viable value throughout the whole center position, even if nobody stands out in a huge way. I don't know. I just wanted to get your take on it because it does worry me a little bit. I don't think it's any lock at all to be like, yeah, Howard played 17 minutes in the first half. If that wasn't a blowout, he was on pace for 34,
Right.
Because he got yanked before that game got entirely out of control. How much?
And like he should produce for whatever minutes he's out there against Dwight Powell and Maxey.
I'm not, and he is still cheap. Right? Like Howard's not, it's not like he's been priced up a ton. I still think he's fine. I just like you said, even in that, he still was basically a fantasy point per minute in that last game. It's just, I have some concerns that maybe the starting lineup doesn't look like we thought it would. And this is the only 10 o'clock game too, Adam. So if you have Dwight Howard, your plan B are going to be limited.
Yeah, I mean, the one nice thing is, and it kind of sucks still because like Howard's the cheapest of the group, but Monk is only $300 more. Talen Horton-Tucker is only $200 more. Carmelo is $500 more. Like if Howard's in your utility spot,
it's a little easier.
Yeah, as long as like if you're maxed out, you're kind of in trouble. But like worst comes to worst, you can swap him to Maxey at 4,300, or Dwight Powell. So like, it's not like you're gonna end up with a dead spot if he doesn't start, but there is definitely some risk with any of these Lakers guys. And the other nice thing is that like, you're not playing Austin Reeves or Trevor Ariza anyway. So if they get taken out of the starting lineup, who really cares?
Yeah, you're right.
Outside of liking Monk and Horton-Tucker more, if that were to happen.
Anything else for the Lakers before we throw this one over to Live Before Lock crew?
Yeah, I mean, I guess quickly to touch on LeBron and Westbrook. LeBron's averaged about 1.6 fantasy points per minute without Davis this year. Makes him look good. I still think Luka's the preferred option. And then, there's other guys that are cheaper that look pretty similar to LeBron. Westbrook obviously hasn't been very good. He's extremely inexpensive on FanDuel. DraftKings, I think it's more difficult to get to him.
Good stuff, bro. Only 2 minutes over tonight. We're getting better. And we had some decent news. Still pay attention to Minnesota. Still decent amount of pending news. Kevin Porter Jr. for Houston. That's why you got the crew coming up right now. Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist, and they're hanging out till 7:30, so you can make some of those adjustments if need be. Only one 7 p.m. game. That's Detroit and Washington. Don't go anywhere. It is Live Before Lock coming up next. And remember, follow Adam, Ship My Money, DFS on the Twitters. Jordan's playing me out here. Me at Loughy_D, that yellow right there. And shout out to our boy Jordan Klein, as always, for producing the show. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow, same time on the Deeper Dive. Peace.
Man, these are new fire beats from Jordan and Klein. Tell you what, can't beat that
so much.
What was that?
He likes the music he makes so much. He gets so into it.
He's just in the lab every day for the people. Guys, welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock show presented by Jock Market. I'm Eric Lindquist, coming in on the soothing beats dropped by one Jordan Klein behind the virtual glass. We really appreciate him. All the extra hours he's putting in on GarageBand are coming in handy, but we got our guy Greg Ehrenberg here. It was a good start to it. Our guy Greg Ehrenberg is going to be the one who gives you all the analysis as we get ready to rock here. Presented by Jock Market today. Excited to be there for half an hour for that after show, the 30-minute after show that we're going to be doing for them. But at G Ehrenberg at DFS, go follow him there. Greg, how you doing, my guy?
Yeah, so I know for me, I was furiously updating my lineups before we started the show because no injury news basically the entire day. We knew the guys that were going to be listed as question. We didn't know whether they were going to be in or out. No news on the 5:30 injury report update. And then all of a sudden, like 5 minutes before our show starts, everybody gets ruled out. OG Anunoby out, Fred VanVleet out, Andre Drummond out. So all of a sudden now all the news came in at once and it changes everything.
Everybody wants you to show the shirt, but no. We don't just whore out the shirt here. We hit the like button and then you get to see Greg Ehrenberg's phenomenal selection of shirt. Looks beautiful. I can't even really tell what's going on with this. I see something in the top left corner that I believe that's Chinese that looks like in the top left corner. So I want to say... Who's to say?
Also, I haven't gotten any new shirts for a minute, so there's nothing that I've worn recently that people have not seen at some point. Not that it means that everybody has seen it, but I haven't gotten a new shirt in like, I don't know, a month or so.
Yeah, Zippy and Nag Power Hour. It's good to be here, guys. Smash that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Then you will see the shirt. We'll wait till the end of the 30-minute show because that's how we roll here. No GarageBand. Is it Logic Pro that you make all this music in? Is that kind of your preferred choice of creation, Jordan Klein? He doesn't know. No, he's locking.
There we go. Secret. Yeah.
It's a secret.
But who's to judge how magic is made? But one day we'll sit down with Jordan Klein. We'll have a serious conversation. We'll ask him where he gets his ideas from. But for now, it's going to be a secret.
All right. Well, let's get to some serious conversation here. Same question I always ask. We got a flurry of news. I know that Malachi Flynn's going to be popular here now. That's for sure. Plus, we just got their starting lineup as we're talking here, exactly what you would expect. But Greg, what piece of news are you waiting on that's going to shape your lineups the most between now and the end of the slate?
Yeah, probably an ownership update, but that aside, the Anthony Edwards news, right? Because of the players that are still questionable, LeBron, I'm going to pretend LeBron James isn't even listed on the injury report. Tired of talking about this. He's playing. This whole thing is bogus. Now watch him get ruled out, and then I'm just going to get trolled endlessly on Twitter. But LeBron James playing today, pretending that doesn't exist. So it's Anthony Edwards being questionable because the other guys that are on the injury report as of right now, it's Anthony Edwards, Kevin Porter Jr., Jared Vanderbilt. Of those guys, Anthony Edwards is clearly the most significant, and he struggled as of late, and I think we could just chalk it up to injuries. He has said himself as of a couple of weeks ago that he was dealing with knee soreness and it was impacting his play. This is the tail end of a back-to-back, so I guess he's going to warm up and see how he feels. But I do think there's a pretty good chance he sits today and probably a little more likely he sits than actually ends up playing. So if he's out, more D'Lo, more Karl Anthony Towns. So that's going to be one that's pretty impactful.
Yeah, and you're going to probably get an opportunity to roster, dare I say, Jaden McDaniel's season. You might have a couple of guys that could emerge. Taurean Prince has played low 20s minutes. I don't really see that changing, so he wouldn't be a guy to necessarily get to. But I think I'm with you. Anthony Edwards is the one who matters most. But if you get Kevin Porter Jr. out, and we'll kind of use this as a way to jump into the guard spot, we go position by position on the show like we always do. Would Dennis Schroeder be a guy that you would want to get to if Kevin Porter Jr. is ruled out on this slate?
Oh, for sure. And, you only let me pick one guy to say would be most impactful, but both of them would be pretty important because Dennis Schroeder has played really well in some of his starts, and he's gotten a little more expensive now. He's $5,900 over on DK. On FanDuel, Dennis Schroeder's $5,500, but I don't think that's necessarily a preventative price tag in terms of getting to him. Matchup against the Los Angeles Clippers here, and they do have a pretty solid defensive team. But that aside, recent starts for Dennis Schroeder, he had one game against them where he only scored 28.75 fantasy points on DK, and people might look at that and say like, oh, look, he can't do well in a matchup against the Clippers. Keep in mind, that game was not remotely competitive, and he did not play in the fourth quarter. His other starts so far this year with Houston against the Suns, also difficult matchup, he scored 46 fantasy points. And then another one against the Clippers, he scored 37.5. So for whatever reason, I guess these teams are just playing each other a whole bunch as of late. But Dennis Schroeder, as long as he starts, I think we should expect a pretty significant fantasy game out of him. And even going back to when he was with Boston earlier in the season, there was a bunch of games where he started and produced good fantasy results. So overall this year, we've now seen 28 starts from Dennis Schroeder, averaging about 34.5 fantasy points in those starts. So I think that this is definitely a guy that we're going to have to consider, even though his price tag is in the mid 5K range now.
Yep, I'm with you. Just a guy to have on your radar early as we jump over to the guard spot, because things have changed drastically. And as you said, ownership update, I'm refreshing here because I just want to talk about Malachi Flynn right off the bat here. This is a guy who's going to be a major part of lineups. And the big difference between yesterday and today, is the timing that this news came out. Obviously, this is much earlier here. Everybody's going to be able to roster a 3,100 Malachi Flynn pretty much without fail. 49 minutes until lock. 34 minutes we saw out of Malachi Flynn yesterday in their evisceration of Brooklyn. Gets the same spot here again. I see no reason that we shouldn't just be firing him up at will on this back-to-back. Do you have any concerns with rostering nearly 100% Malachi Flynn today?
Nope, he's an all-in play for me, and it's really hard to avoid. I don't see a scenario really where he ends up failing in this spot. Even a crappy, outside of something fluky, like he gets hurt right away or foul trouble or something along those lines. Other than that, he played 34 minutes in a blowout game yesterday. He's a good enough fantasy producer. Even if we were to only give him 30 minutes and say he plays a few less, it's still hard to not project him for mid-20s fantasy points. It's a matchup against the Nets team that's also missing a whole bunch of pieces. So I don't see any way around it. Malachi Flynn, because of how the situation shook out yesterday, with it being kind of late news with him being in the starting lineup, pricing was already out for FanDuel and DraftKings at the time that he was named a starter yesterday. So the pricing algorithm hasn't got caught up. He realistically should be somebody who's priced right where Dennis Schroeder is right now. So he's the best value play on the slate. He's going to be in all my lineups, and I don't think that's going to kill me. Maybe there's a chance he won't be optimal, but I doubt I'm going to look at this slate at the end of the night and say, oh, I lost money because I played Malachi Flynn. That's not going to be the case.
Ms. Unick, I think he definitely uses Logic Pro. I can hear it. I can hear some of the samples that he uses in his beats. I definitely hear some of those that really come to the forefront. So you guys are together, Ms. Unick. We appreciate you. You have an ear for these things. Cody Haney, $10 super chat here. Grade 1 to 10 on this lineup. All right. So we could just make up a number, or we could think about this. $10. This isn't $1.99. We're going to give this a second. We have Luka at point. We have KCP at shooting guard. LBJ at small forward. Power forward, Scotty Barnes. Center, Gafford. Guard, Flynn. Bruce Brown, utility Precious. I'm going to give that like a 3 because I don't really see Bruce Brown or Precious Achiuwa. As much as Precious is a guy who's gone out the last 2 slates, that's getting a little bit cute for me.
So I have some exposure to Precious, so I don't mind having him in there. Overall, these are all guys that I have some exposure to. I'd say probably my least favorite play there is Bruce Brown, just because he's gotten priced up, and this is it's a DK lineup because it's a utility spot. 5,400 for Bruce Brown is a lot more than I want to pay for him. I have him projected for mid-20s fantasy points. So to me, that's the weak link in the lineup. I'll give it like a 7.5. I would say if you could find somebody instead of Bruce Brown is my least favorite play there.
All right. I was being very harsh about Bruce Brown is kind of what it was. So I have like legitimately no interest.
Yeah. I do too. I've none.
Okay, cool. So that's what I was getting at. But if we change that, we would be more in range here. Obviously, Achiuwa is a guy that is crushed here lately. Well, the last 2 games, you've had no Fred VanVleet. I'm updating everything here, and I will definitely get to some as well. But center on DraftKings is stacked. We'll get to that position here a little bit later, but wanted to talk about Flynn from the get-go. He's projected around 50% of lineups on DK. Get more than that. Luka Doncic on the top end. I think we have access to be able to get to him, Steph Curry, Trae Young, kind of whomever you want here at the top end. Luka's at 33%. Steph Curry's right around 20%, and Trae Young is at 18%. Relative to ownership, who do you like the most from the trio above 10K on DraftKings?
Oh, above 10K. Okay. I thought you were going to tell me of everybody because the answer was still going to be Malachi Flynn. I'm looking, I'm like 50% ownership for 3,100 Malachi Flynn, is crazy as that might sound. It's way too low. I think he should be way higher on than 50%. And I suspect there's a pretty good chance he will be. So as of the guys over 10K, it's still going to be Luka for me. I know he's the most popular, but just given the amount of value we have on this slate, it's not all that difficult to get up to him. 12,000 over on DK, 10.8 on FanDuel is just ridiculously too cheap, especially when he's point guard and shooting guard eligibility. So for me, now that especially that VanVleet and OG Anunoby officially been ruled out and Malachi Flynn is starting, we have a lot of salary to pay up here. I might as well just go up to Luka, who I have projected as the top fantasy player on the slate by a pretty wide margin just by raw points.
Yeah, I think that's what we're kind of turning this slate into a little bit here. We have so much center cheapy value to be getting to that Luka just becomes a guy that's much easier to access and unlock. And I think I'll still get to some Steph Curry and Trae Young, but not nearly where I'm going to get at for Luka. The field's doing the same thing, but he's in a different stratosphere. I mean, he's got a larger projection than Steph Curry by over 7.5 fantasy points here at Awesemo. Trae Young, more than 10 fantasy points. So I want to unlock the top guy when I get a 3,100 free square. Now that leaves fewer spots at point guard, but point guard, with Malachi Flynn, and then playing a lot of these cheap centers unlocks the entire board, I think. And that's going to be a popular way to go. I think it's the right way to go. So I'm on board with you. I think Luke is kind of the guy that I'm looking at most, but somebody I want to talk about that I think that is going a little bit underappreciated just in terms of what his ownership is right now. And I think the timing of the news is going to matter a lot, but D'Angelo Russell, 7,600 here, 14%. I'm hoping that news comes out a lot later here so we can get to some of these Minnesota Timberwolves. That might be a nice spot to get some leverage. Take advantage of drink if you're playing the Eric Lindquist game, late swap. Yes, we're going to talk about that because it exists here. And, we only have one game that sits on an island there, but D'Angelo Russell there, 7,600, Reggie Jackson, 8,200. These are all guys that I'm landing on in a lot of lineups, for sure over the 16% that we have for Reggie Jackson, and 14% I'm way over on a D'Angelo Russell. Who in this next tier that's underneath that 10K threshold up until 6K, because we got to be selective. These point guard spots matter a lot here today. Who are you landing on the most for tournaments?
Yeah. So first, just to talk about the D'Angelo Russell point, we need Anthony Edwards to be out. I do not see him as remotely viable if Edwards ends up playing. And I actually kind of only view him as a decent but not great play if Anthony Edwards is out, just because his rates go up without Edwards this year, but it's not anything crazy significant. So this year with Edwards off the court, 26% usage rate for D'Angelo Russell, scores a little over 40 fantasy points per 36 minutes. So ultimately, does it help him? Yes, but he's also priced at a certain point where I don't view him as some crazy good value play. And it's not like we're getting crazy contrarian. He's 11% owned. So I would view Russell differently if he was cheaper or less popular, but I kind of feel that people are rostering him to some extent as if there is a chance that Edwards ends up sitting, which I kind of think the fair ownership for Russell right now is probably closer to 5% or something like that. So I'm probably not quite as high on him as you are. But how would you anticipate you project him if there is no Edwards in the lineup? Because I think you would just end up being somebody who I have, especially considering it's a tough matchup against the Warriors. I'd probably end up projecting him for around 40 fantasy points, which at 7,800, whatever, that's okay. But there's just better plays for me to get to today, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. Golden State, number one in defensive efficiency. Against the three, they hold teams to the second best 3-point percentage against on the entire season as well. So a lot of negatives that kind of stand in the way there. I was talking on the Locks Before Locks show about some of the props. Ended up doing a TikTok dance bet with Eytan, because that's a normal thing to do with another adult male, is doing a TikTok dance bet on the 1.5 3-pointers for Patrick Beverley. I wanted the under. That being said, Patrick Beverley's 4,700 over on FanDuel, garnering some attention over there, as is projection around 26 minutes for him here at Awesemo. And I think that he makes for a good piece of value there. 4,700 doesn't nearly compare to Malachi Flynn. So don't get me wrong there, but I just think that these Timberwolves might be a little bit sneaky here at home. 232.5 total. That's the highest we have on the entire board. So I think the game environment might be a little bit better than what the field is kind of projecting it for. So I'm okay trying to get a little bit over on him. I'm just trying to find some of these places to get some leverage. And we just got the news. Kevin Porter Jr. is out. Garrison Matthews is expected to play. Initial reaction to Dennis Schroeder now, because that is the guy that we were going to be talking about later. Well, this is the time when we talk about him a little bit more here. 5,900 is his tag over on DraftKings. On FanDuel right now, he is waiting for it. He is 5,500. Good Lord, that is cheap. How much Dennis Schroeder are you looking to get to on this slate?
Yeah. So the only thing that's at all, he's a very good points per dollar play. Play him in cash games. The only thing that's going to prevent him from being a guy who's in a massive amount of my lineups is I already have a bunch of guys that I'm going to be getting a lot of at the guard position, most notably Malachi Flynn, Luka Doncic, two guys we've already talked about. And Dennis Schroeder is probably my third favorite guard option now behind those guys, which obviously I still like him a whole bunch. But it remains to be seen based on, some of the ownership updates and whatnot, how much of him I actually end up getting. In terms of projection for him, this isn't hard to figure out because I remember the last couple of games that he was out against the Clippers. I know I'm going to have him project for mid-30s fantasy points. We've seen this. This is the third time we've seen him in this matchup where he's going to be starting for the Rockets in the last couple of weeks. So I know where my projection is going to end up being. Now it's just really going to be a matter of who else gets ruled out and then what ends up being optimal, but certainly a strong play.
All right. Yeah. 5,900. You can play him at shooting guard on DraftKings. That is important. I will say that the ability to be able to move him to a shooting guard spot makes it tough for me to not roster him a bunch there. If you want to try to take the shot here, We've seen some upside here from Jalen Green in some spots. I don't feel great about it. That's why I'm kind of mumbling, but 5,500 for him. I think we can try to take that shot. I don't feel very nice about it. 5,200.
Say with more confidence. Jalen Green is
I hate projecting this guy because I've never been this wrong about a prospect, maybe ever. I thought Jalen Green was going to be very good in the NBA level. He is very bad at the NBA level.
I mean, it's still out. I think he's a ton of athleticism. He could improve in terms of efficiency. It's been absolute garbage, but that's not that uncommon for young guards. It's not like he's come into the league and made a massive difference like Evan Mobley has, and a lot of that too, shooting 38.7% from the field, 31.1% from three. But yeah, I'm not out on Jalen Green yet, and I do think that there's scoring upside for him individually. Not a core play for me on the slate either, but I wouldn't be surprised if I ultimately end up getting to like 10% of them.
So Tex, he is very bad. Also, yes, Wesley Johnson, he lived on my dorm floor at Iowa State, actually. Fun fact, because his freshman year, he was at Iowa State before he went to Syracuse and then ends up on the Lakers, yada, yada, yada. He didn't end up that well, but I will say he could touch like a 12-foot ceiling in the gym. That was fun to watch sometimes. Guy had crazy bunnies as a 19-year-old, no doubt about it.
So the guy I was most wrong about before we go on, Anthony Randolph, I was convinced was going to be an NBA superstar. He was. So here's part of the issue.
Basketball Reference, Joey wouldn't know who it is because
he would if he looked it up. But here's the issue with Anthony Randolph is I used to play NBA 2K a lot, and he had an A+ potential rating. And if you ever played those games, anybody who's an A+ potential rating, they become a superstar every single time. And I just didn't really grasp that as a kid. So I would play those games and it always become a stud. So I just assumed it would carry over to real life, and it didn't.
Yeah, he's very young at the NBA level, DI. Yes, he is. He also sucks right now. And his shot it causes me physical pain watching him shoot a 3-pointer. It takes 20 minutes for it to leave his hands. It is brutal. Team watch the tape. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't know. I just absolutely cannot stand this dude. That Cleveland took number one. LeBron, he's pretty good. I don't know which other Cleveland one are we talking about?
I think he's talking about Evan Mobley.
Oh, Mobley. That went great. Well, I don't know. Dude that Cleveland took number one. Anthony Bennett. Yeah, that had to be the guy that they're referring to. Yeah, he was not very good, but I never thought he was going to be good. So that's a difference. That's a different conversation. You know, if you want to have that conversation, you're just having the biggest bust in NBA history conversation. So, oh my God, Bennett. Everybody's saying Bennett. I got it in there before you.
Yeah, we get it. Eric loves Anthony Bennett, and now and then he ended up being no good. It was Eric's favorite player ever. Eric used to text me about Anthony Bennett. Like, yeah, this guy Anthony Bennett's pretty good. Eric's still confused why Giannis is playing more minutes than Anthony Bennett.
Yeah, Anthony bend him over the knee and slap him. He's just been bad. He's that bad. I don't know if that would improve. Joke. Yeah. I don't know if that would improve his NBA play. Might do something for you. I don't know if it would do anything for Anthony Edwards. By the way, game time decision that helps us 0. Yeah, absolutely none. Anything else from guard that you want to talk about here? We can talk about pieces to take shots on if you wanted to. Seth Curry, Patty Mills. If you had told me that it was 2 weeks ago, and you told me that there was going to be no Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, or James Harden, and I would have no interest in rostering Seth Curry or Patty Mills, I think something was kind of wrong there. There's no Andre Drummond in there, which can be a stat hog situation. We'll get to Aldridge at center and kind of waiting on that Brooklyn center spot here, but Seth Curry or Patty Mills, it's been brutal here. Are you rostering either one of them today?
No. And I mean, there's been times, I've been on Patty Mills and sometimes during the stretch, and massively high variance player, either the shot, because he's so scoring dependent, either the shots go in and he has a decent fantasy game, or they don't and he sucks. There's just so many good guards to play at this point that it's hard for me to really see myself getting to either of them. So right now we have for the Brooklyn Nets, Patty Mills, also the pricing, he's 4,600 right now. We've got Seth Curry up to 6,400, and Goran Dragic is in the mix now. So Dragic individually, it's not like he's somebody who's viable. He's not somebody who's going to go in and start for the Nets most likely. He's not going to go and play 26 minutes or anything like that. But here's what he is going to do. he's going to play 18 minutes or so. And that's minutes that are going to come and shots that are going to come from Patty Mills and Seth Curry. And once again, also, Seth Curry is now 6,400. And I think Patty Mills probably loses more playing time to Dragic than Curry does. So no real interest in me from here. There's so many good guard plays. It's hard to logic into wanting to play much of any of them.
All right. 3 super chats to get to. We're going to do a quick read. We will get ourselves to 4. We'll keep this train moving. We've got 34 minutes to go here until lock, and then we're not going anywhere. Half an hour. There's only one game that locks. Just get your Detroit and Washington players in, and we'll wait for some Brooklyn news to see what that starting lineup looks like. Might be wonky, might be Claxton, might be Aldridge. I really don't know what to think here yet, but doesn't matter. What does matter is Thomas Kingston gave us $1.99 to answer this question. Top center play in cash for FanDuel. So we are looking for the best cash center for FanDuel for him today, Greg.
Yeah, so for me, it's LaMarcus Aldridge, who I assume is going to start at center for the Nets. He's 4,600 on FanDuel, also his power forward eligibility. And that's something else that I've seen has been a pretty popular question that's popped up in YouTube chat. We can't answer everything there, but I keep my eye on it, and I try to just incorporate stuff you guys say into conversation so that I'm kind of trying to cover all the stuff that's being talked about there. But LaMarcus Aldridge has been talked about from this standpoint, as people are just asking who's going to start at center for the Nets. I think it's going to be Aldridge. So his minutes yesterday, he ended up playing 20. Drummond got hurt very, very early in yesterday's game. I think it was 4 minutes into the game, he slipped and kind of twisted his knee a little bit funny. LaMarcus Aldridge was the first guy who checked in for Drummond. He played pretty well immediately right off the bench, but then the Nets just got their asses kicked in that game, and there was no reason to really play the starters much in the second half. But I think we do see Aldridge slot into the starting lineup. Like you said, the lineup could be wonky. That's been the case for a lot of the Nets lineup so far this year, but I think it's going to be Aldridge.
Yeah, you can play Aldridge at power forward, which I think makes it a little bit interesting. But even still, I think I'm probably looking at using a center spot, maybe on him or Christian Wood, or, maybe not wrong. Yeah, I'm looking. If you were to play an actual center, Karl Anthony Towns is probably the only answer. But I'm going to prioritize Doncic over him as far as a spend up. And, maybe Cat's harder to get to than what I think he is for cash 9,300 in tournaments. I really like him, but the field's already there. 22.5%. I think that you are dead on. LaMarcus Aldridge would be the priority guy there. Mirage Ratani, I think I got that. Reggie Jackson and Barnes, or Siakam and Danilo Gallinari. No second.
All right. So I'm just going back to try to find the question here. Can you read me the names one more time? Sorry.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson and Scotty Barnes, or Siakam and Danilo Gallinari.
This is tough. I really, really like Pascal Siakam today. He hasn't looked all that great as of late. I think fatigue could be an issue because Nick Nurse is playing his guys 70 minutes per game. And then he's like, whoa, oh my God, I can't believe
why
Fred
is everybody
VanVleet's
injured?
Yeah, why is everybody banged up right now? How could OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet both be hurt as we're trying to push for the playoffs? Well, maybe because these guys are playing all of the minutes possible. But I do really think this is a good spot to get back to him. But at the same time, too, I don't really love Danilo Gallinari today. I guess I'm going to side with the Reggie Jackson, Scotty Barnes side. Siakam is my favorite of those 4 players overall, but I just don't think there's that much upside in Gallo.
I have the exact same analysis. Dustin, Shaney felt best utility at 4K DK. Well, if you're just going to give us the entire board, I'll take Malachi Flynn for 900 less. Well, let's assume he's got 4K left, that there's no Malachi Flynn there. Who's the guy closest to 4K on DraftKings that you would click in the utility spot, Greg?
Yep, scrolling through my projections to find that guy right now, and it is Daniel Gafford.
Yep, that's my guy too.
Gafford. I mean, Gafford and Flynn are both really popular, so let's assume he already has exposure to both of them. Who is a guy who's not massive chalk at 4K or less he could play at utility? Because I think there's a pretty good chance he has both those guys in. It's a reasonable assumption.
Yeah, I would agree. Not going to like my answer. It's not. Oh, hang on. Why did it just disappear on me? I got to refresh it here quick. I'm just going to go over to the DraftKings actual site here because Cruncher just
it's Precious Achiuwa. It's Precious Achiuwa for me.
If you probably is now. Probably is. Yeah.
If you already have Flynn and you already have Gafford, Precious is the next guy 4K below that I have projected the best.
I will also say for tournaments, Jaden McDaniels is a guy. I'm building about half of mine assuming Anthony Edwards is in and half that he's assuming out. On FanDuel, Anthony Edwards, we'll talk here at the forward spot, 6,600. It's like, yikes, how do you not click on that? Quite a bit, but, such is life here. I think we're caught up on the super chats here. Oh, one more. Rosso Music, Trent and Jay Brown, or Morris and Tatum with Poole. So, okay, Pool's in the lineup. I'm going to assume DraftKings because there's no site, and I just kind of assume DraftKings in that situation.
Why does Pool matter?
I don't know. He just said with Pool. He just wanted to throw it in. It's
Okay.
it's like surf and turf with lobster. I don't know. It's just assumed it's lobster. But Trenton J. Brown or Morris and Tatum?
Let's see. So for me, I have Trent projected quite a bit higher than Morris. Where do I have Brown versus Tatum? All right, so 8. I'm just doing the quick math in my head to figure out which one I have projected higher. Do you have a quick answer while I figure this out or no?
No, I don't have a quick answer because we just got news that Bielitsa's out.
By the way, it's Morris and Tatum for me.
Okay, Morris and Tatum. I will say, oh my Lord, we had a couple more super chats that came in here. I'm going to go Morris and Tatum as well because I love Marcus Morris here today. That is a fact. Caleb D, $5. Hello, filling shooting guard and forward spots on DK. Gary Payton and Bogdanovich, or Poole and Gallinari, or Schroeder Kispert. It's probably going to be the last one out of that entire grouping for me.
Boy, this is a lot of combinations to go through.
But it's $5, so it's worth it.
Payton and Bogdanovich, or Poole and Gallinari, or Schroeder and Kispert. So of all the players you've mentioned, Schroeder's by far my favorite option. And I do have some exposure to Kispert in there. I've already mentioned I don't really like Gallo. I think Poole's a pretty good GPP option. I have no clue what to expect from a minute standpoint so without Klay Thompson last game, Poole played 19 minutes. It stood to reason that without Klay Thompson in the mix, Jordan Poole would just play the role he did earlier in the season. Not only did he not, for whatever reason, his minutes went down with Klay Thompson out of the mix. Made absolutely no sense. So I think there is reason to think he's a decent GPP option, but considering the information we know right now, that is going to be Schroeder and Kispert. But I hardly even know her. Ricky Asmo Jr., FD, Luca, and that was bad. Or LBJ and Reggie Jackson. There's no N there. That was fun to say. Reggie Jackson. I read what's ever there. We all know that. FanDuel, Luca, Woods, or LBJ, Reggie Jackson, Greg. Luca and Woods.
Beautiful. That's keeping it. Oh, more. Saif Din. Hi. Should I take the over in the Wizards game? That's $4.99. Do we want the over in the Wizards game? Hang on.
Well, here's what I could do.
Series, flip a coin.
Well, I'm going to go look at Here's what I'm going to do. We have projections on our site for this. I'm going to go look at what our projections say. I think that is a reasonable way to do this.
Better way to do it.
Yeah. Let's see.
Schroeder or Jalen Green cash DK while we're at it, while you're looking that up.
Let me look this up. Let me look this up, and you give that answer, and then I'll start.
Schroeder, it's not even like remotely close. Jalen Green is like, he just makes me sad. But I'm playing him in tournaments. I would never click on that idiot in cash.
All right. So for our friend who left the super chat, sometimes the best bet is the bet you don't make. We have both the over and the under projected as negative ROI bets. It's a fair line. We have the expected total in that game at 217.9 when it's at 217. It's not enough of a difference for there to be value on either side. We have the over as a negative 2% ROI. We have the under as a negative 7% ROI. So the over is slightly less of a bad bet than the under, but both bad bets.
There we go. There it is. But both are bad. Good to know. Cola, Eric can't even flip a real coin. Needs to use phone app. How many people have an actual coin on them in their pocket on their person right now? It is a stupid low number. We're not even going to do a poll. That would be so dumb to do. Jordan Klein, agreed. Yeah, we're not. Yeah,
and by the way, you guys just got some insight into Eric's DFS process. Every day before the show, he just for hours just using the coin flip app. Oh, okay. Schroeder, no Schroeder.
We're excited to announce our new NBA props betting show, Locks Before Lock. It's very fun. Greg came up with the name. It's excellent. Jordan Klein is shaking his head still. For 30 minutes, you get the deeper dive every single day as well. Before the deeper dive, you get that every single day. So check that out. A lot of fun to do. Not me. Oh my God, they're doing it anyway. People are commenting on whether or not they have a coin in their pocket anyway to actually flip. And plus, am I going to flip a coin on... whatever. Get Awesemo Plus tools and content for an actual process for $29.95 per week. Full access to premium content and tools here at Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our boom bust tool, lineup builder, and so much more. Today, NBA player rankings. So nice of us to just give those to you for free. That is what we have free. So NBA player rankings NHL player rankings, and PGA Top Golfers Tool. Check out all of those great things. But $29.95 for the weekly pass, $4.95 for the weekly NBA package only. But if you want the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, that's a little bit extra, but stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo Plus, $29.95. What a lovely number. Rosso Music, Olynyk or Boucher, DK?
Neither. I don't think either of them are particularly strong plays for this slate. If I had to play one of them, I would lean towards Boucher, but I don't think there's a need to play either of them at this point.
DK as K Birch starting. Yeah, that's what I saw at the starting lineup was, right? Isn't that what we have? And
yeah,
there's
we also got the Warriors.
Name, so.
We got the Warriors starting lineup. Same starting lineup from the other day.
Yep.
Curry, Peyton, Moody, Wiggins, Looney. I thought there was a chance Jordan Poole would start. Not the case.
Nope, they are not going to do that apparently ever. Because why put your best players on the floor all the time?
Well, I don't think Jordan Poole is particularly good either, but it's what they did earlier in the season.
Better than Moses Moody.
That's probably fair.
All right, let's go to the forward spot here. Let's get chatting about some
we had one more super chat.
Justin Alperto, Wiggins or Morris FanDuel, a top three Raptors for today. Malachi Flynn, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes on FanDuel.
Yes, sir. Same for me. And then what was the other part of the question?
And then Wiggins or Morris FanDuel.
Wiggins or Morris. That for me is Wiggins.
It is Morris for me. So
we are at odds, sir. And we had one more super chat. We're going to agree with this one. Big Sus 420. Schroeder or Jalen Green, cash DK. Dennis Schroeder, easy.
Yep, yeah, I said that one. That was the one I answered when you were looking up the coin flip. It was not a coin flip. Wiggins revenge, though, Greg. Wiggins revenge. Oh no.
Well, I think this is a good spot for Wiggins. So it's Wiggins for me. I like Wiggins and Morris today, but I have a lean towards Wiggins.
It was more of the reasoning for it. But here we go to the forward spot. We have 3 Raptors on DraftKings that are the most popular ones. Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr. I think we can agree that is the correct order for them in terms of the way that we prefer them. But how much are you getting to each of them?
Siakam is one of my most roster players today. So I love getting to Siakam, and I think his ownership is going to be suppressed a little bit just based on some of the recent performances. I know we have him projected for 28% ownership right now on DK and 42% on FanDuel. I guess FanDuel people might just roster him a ton anyway because he's 8,300. On DK, though, I would not be surprised if he comes in below that 28% projected ownership at 8,900 because his last couple of games have not been all that great. It is the tail end of a back-to-back. Maybe people are going to be concerned about fatigue, but no Fred VanVleet, no OG Anunoby. I know the scoring wasn't there for Siakam yesterday, but it didn't need to be. The Raptors were within a second, the Raptors were up 20 points against the Nets, and the second half, just starters didn't have to be out there. So this is a tail end of a back-to-back. But considering they didn't have to run the starters into the ground yesterday, I think Siakam can be a little bit better rested for the situation they normally would be. So I really do like him a lot today. He's my favorite guy from Toronto, other than Malachi Flynn, talking about the forward guys.
Okay. Other than Malachi, that's a good caveat to have thrown in there because he's my favorite. And I think he's everybody else's favorite, but he should be everybody's favorite. Those are the 3 guys that listed them out there. Brendan McPherson, favorite centers on Yahoo. We will get to centers here. I promise I will speed that up here. I will make sure that I pull up Yahoo here and we'll touch on that. So remind me if you don't, just put in all caps, hey, Eric, centers on Yahoo. And I will make sure I do that immediately. Zach Anderson, $5. How would you rank Morris, Horford, and Barnes for a DK GPP?
Barnes, Morris, Horford.
I have the exact same order, although Horford 9.5. You can get that over on OddsShopper, oddshopper.com, the best place to go find points and lines and all of the things that you want. 9.5 points here for Al Horford is way too low of a line. We've got him projected north of 11. We want to be clicking on that. We need to be clicking on that. That is a great way to go. More forwards on the top end here. Pascal Siakam is there, but then LeBron James is there. And this is a guy that you've been rostering a lot above the field. And I will say, I think it's going to be turning in your favor sooner than it's not. Plus, people see the questionable tag. They feel nervous, and there's no real pivots. If you don't have LeBron James playing in this spot, you are going to be leaving thousands upon thousands of dollars on the table in this late night hammer if he miraculously gets ruled out. But coming off of that embarrassment against the Pelicans there on Sunday, I think he's going to be ready to rock here. He's at 15%. Are you with me? And more than double the field. I
am not more than double the field. I'm a little bit closer to the field. I I don't think LeBron's healthy right now. And I kind of have a feeling of, this is maybe a little bit of a conspiracy, but here's how I think the rest of the Lakers season is going to go. I think in a few weeks, if the Lakers keep losing games, I think there's a pretty good chance they shut down LeBron. They don't bring back Anthony Davis. They fire Frank Vogel in the offseason. And then I think they just repackage the same exact Lakers team next year. Be like, hey, look, we dealt with injuries. We changed our coach. And they try to sell season tickets from that way, where they say, hey, we made changes without actually making changes, because I don't think this team is particularly good, at least not relative to expectations, something that, we've talked about a lot over the course of the season. And I kind of think that's where they're heading. And I also just don't think LeBron is 100% healthy right now. There's a lot of times where he seems to be labored out on the court. And I think the workload is just catching up to him now that he's 37 years old. And for this team to be any bit competitive in a lot of these games, they just need massive, massive workloads from LeBron James. And it's too much to expect from somebody at his age with the amount of mileage he has on his body. Here are the amount of minutes that he's played since coming back from injury. 40, 35, 37, 38, 40, 36, 36. And some of these games were blowouts, and that limited his minutes. So even with that said, his floor of minutes over the last month is still 35. So the playing time should be there for LeBron, but I just think overall the mileage is starting to catch up to him. If I'm paying up for somebody, I much prefer Luka today. So I'm just close to the field on LeBron. Obviously, the upside is still there for him, and it's a spot against the Dallas Mavericks where they clearly need a win. So I think, like I said, the minutes aren't going to go anywhere for him. And even in some of these recent blowouts, we're still seeing 36, 38 minutes from LeBron. But I don't feel great about where his health is at right now. That, and Dallas has had a good defense this year. The total for this game, 216.5, is the lowest on the slate.
Yeah, and Dallas plays at the slowest pace in the entire NBA. So that's certainly not helping things in that regard. But I got to say, I feel like there are these classic spots for LeBron where, we've had how many conversations over the course of the last decade where it's just like, he's down and out, it's done, it's over, he should pack it in. And given he's 37 in age, takes all of us at some point, but it's still LeBron. And I still think there is a chance that he goes out and just chucks here in this game. So I could find, I'll kind of stay with it until like maybe the last 10 games of the season. I'm willing to get up a little bit above that 15% number, maybe not to the around 30% that I did have. I think that you've kind of talked me into looking a little bit more at that, but as it stands, he still played 36 minutes the last two games. You give me 36 minutes of LeBron absent Anthony Davis and all these other pieces. He could definitely put up 40 real points, and it would not surprise me, or probably anybody else in any spot here. But there are other guys here at the top end here. Kyle Kuzma's garnering a ton of rostership. Jason Tatum is a guy garnering quite a bit of rostership here. Who out of this top end are you getting to the most out of those guys?
Yeah, so at the top, well, the guy I'm actually getting the most of at the top end of forward is Pascal Siakam today, which is also something. I have Siakam projected for about, so I have guys that are grouped really closely together at the forward position. Siakam, LeBron, and Jason Tatum are all players that I have with a similar projection on, but Siakam is considerably cheaper than those two guys. Then Tatum is cheaper than LeBron. LeBron's a lot more expensive just based on the points per dollar aspect of it. It is for me just the inverse of the pricing. Siakam's my favorite, already hit on that. And then it's Tatum, and then it's LeBron. I only have LeBron project for one more fantasy points than Jason Tatum, but considering how much more expensive LeBron is, I just prefer getting to Tatum. And it's not like there's a massive ownership gap between the two of them over on DK. On FanDuel, let's see, where do we have them right now? On FanDuel, Tatum projected for 34% ownership. So LeBron is coming in a bit less popular, but once again, I'm looking at a $2,100 price difference between guys that have separated by one fantasy point. So it's hard for me to not favor Tatum over LeBron.
Anthony Edwards. How do we feel about Anthony Edwards here in the event that he plays here? And who do you think would be his main beneficiaries? And would you get to them here if he's not?
Yeah, so if he's out, it's pretty clear who benefits, because we've seen this situation with players being in and out for the Timberwolves a little bit, and Karl Anthony Towns scores 53 fantasy points per 36 minutes when you take Edwards off the court. Also, big usage increase of 33% usage rate. We talked about Russell before. Russell scores a little over 40 fantasy points per 36 minutes without Edwards on the court this year, 26% usage rate. So just based on what the pricing is, the priority would have to be Towns for me. But we'll talk on that a little bit more when we get to the center position. As for high-end guys, it's just those two. Beverly would look more enticing. But in terms of forwards, like who do you think starts in place of Edwards if he's out?
Jaden McDaniels. They've done that quite a bit, where they play McDaniels alongside Vanderbilt and then kind of go from there. I would assume that would be what it is. I saw somebody else said earlier that they think it would be Malik Beasley. He hasn't started a game since January 30th, and that was his only start up until that point since the 3rd of January. So he's had one start since January 3rd. So I don't think it would be Malik Beasley. Taurean Prince has played well in spots, but yet he has not started a game since going back all the way to the 3rd. But then you look at McDaniels, and it seems to be the guy that they do kind of give these spot starts to when they needed to for that run of time. Let's see, it was like towards the end of January, beginning of February. I think he's kind of the prime candidate for K.
Yeah, I don't think I would like him even if he starts, because I'm just looking at his rates right now as a starter this year. So Jaden McDaniels, he's made a lot of starts, actually. 24 starts for Jaden McDaniels. He's playing 28 minutes per game in those starts and averaging 19 fantasy points. And then you also consider a negative matchup against the Warriors. So even if I gave McDaniels 30 minutes, I'd probably have him projected for less than 20 fantasy points.
All right, let's keep going with the rest of the forwards here. We'll get to centers, and I will answer that Yahoo question, and we will jump over to the jock market portion. Plus, all you really need to do is get your Detroit Pistons and Washington Wizards in on lineups. Matters with a couple of them, matters a little less for others. We do want some swappability here for Brooklyn, but we have a million roster spots with 5 games to go. So no real considerations for me there. We talked about the top end of guys. We talked about the most popular plays. Let's talk tournaments here. Who are some plays in this mid-range between I don't know, just take the entire board into account if you would like, considering everybody's under 25% here on this slate at the forward position. Who are your favorite guys that you're getting overweight to at the forward position?
Yeah, so, we talked about some of these guys already. Siakam, Marcus Morris, Jason Tatum. Let me see if there's anybody that I'm overweight to that's really not popular, though, in the most recent run of ownership. And like you said, the ownership is kind of spread out. A lot of these guys are going to be in like that, 10 to 20% range or so. But let's see. Where's Wiggins at now? I like Wiggins. So Wiggins at 12%. He's somebody I'm about double the field on. Once again, we've got no Klay Thompson in the mix for the Golden State Warriors. I know we haven't seen the upside from Andrew Wiggins as of late, but there's extra opportunity for him there without Klay in the mix. And I think he should benefit. Last game, he didn't make very many of his shots, only made 7 of 16 shots from the field, 2 of 6 from 3. But once again, there's extra usage there. He had a 23.4% usage rate that game. That was one of his higher rates in the last month and a half or so. So I think that there's upside in Wiggins that's kind of going unrecognized by the field. I think that his low ownership, he's somebody worth getting to.
All right. I like that shout out. Somebody brought up Danilo Gallinari earlier. I find it hard to want to go too crazy against Boston with some of these wings. And, there's been pretty secure minutes for the most part. You go to him, you go to DeAndre Hunter, but none of them are that great of fantasy assets, should I say. I would say out of anybody from Atlanta, though, DeAndre Hunter would be the guy I would want to roster if I wanted to try to force it in there, but I'm not getting above the field on any of them. They're right around 12%, and I think that's about appropriate. A lot of these Washington wings have fallen down the board a little bit here in the aftermath of getting all of this Toronto value, but I still think there can be a case. Let's kind of close it out with this because this is exciting. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Corey Kispert, Rui Hachimura, all of them garnering over 8% rostership on DK. Do you have a preference between any of them?
So I heard Kispert was one of them. Could you read off the
Rui Hachimura, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? I guess he's shooting guard, so it's a little bit different than going back and forth. I'm kind of going back and forth between the DraftKings and FanDuel slates here, trying to give everybody some stuff. But Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is small forward over on the FanDuel slate. You've got Corey Kispert there, 4,300 as well. He's now sub 5%. Man, that changed a lot here for him. He was a guy that people were playing as a piece of value. And now with Toronto, you don't really need to do that as much. But I'll just ask you about KCP then as well for either DraftKings or FanDuel. But him, Kispert, and Rui Hachimura, any interest in any of them?
Yeah, so Casey, I don't really understand the salary on KCP. He's 4,400 on both FanDuel and DK. He's played fairly well as of late and with the ceiling. So the last 5 games for KCP, 26 fantasy points, 40, 18, 37, 21. The 4,400 price tag is just not correct. And 2 games ago, he was 4,900. So I don't understand how he scores 37 fantasy points at 4,900. And they're like, hey, we got to take this guy down $500 in his salary. So I think KCP is one of the more underpriced players. I generally don't love getting to KCP, but he's just not priced correctly.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for 4. We're going to get ourselves to center here. 9 minutes to go, but we're not going anywhere because we're going to talk Jock Market. That's what we do on Tuesdays. Greg and myself talking you through fantasy sports turned into a stock exchange. We have free projections on the site. I would check those out. Free Jock Market IPO projections. If you want to get in the game in this IPO phase, jump over there now. Use promo code Awesemo if you haven't signed up yet. Get a $100 bonus on your first deposit, plus a first market guarantee. So if you play today for the first time in an NBA market, which is what we're going to talk through, you can get up to $100 refunded. So deposit 100, play 100. You can play 200 or 300, and you have an opportunity to have $100 of losses refunded. It's a really fun way to play fantasy sports. Every minute, every second, every hour, you can make money by buying and selling shares of players in real time for real cash. Again, promo code Awesemo gets you that $100 bonus on your first deposit. And they have more than just NBA. They, God willing, MLB one day, but NHL, PGA are really, really fun products over at Jock Market. Sign up, play with Greg and myself. It's going to be a lot of fun. So stop guessing star winning. Join us at Awesemo through this promotion. Use promo code Awesemo. Simple as that. Can't wait to talk to you about their product because we have a lot of fun. Greg and I made a little bit of coin here talking through the process. So looking forward to that. Plus, if any news breaks, we're going to be here talking through everything because we still need a Brooklyn starting lineup. I don't see it. Nobody sees it because it's not there. That's how that works. Let's go to center here. And I remember the super chat. I've been thinking about it the whole time. Yahoo. I need to start there with you, Greg. Who is your favorite 3? Give me your 3 favorite center plays on Yahoo at the position tonight.
Did you build lineups on Yahoo for today?
I did. Pascal Siakam is a center only over there. He's $37. He's going to be popular, but I don't care. That's cheaper than Karl Anthony Towns at 41, who I like. Daniel Gafford is the flat $10. That would be another guy that I would want to be jamming into a ton of lineups. And I think the last guy, Isaiah Hartenstein, $13. Zubats went completely nuts, but he's up to 19 here. I think there's a case to be made for getting to some lineups over there. He's 5K on DraftKings. I don't really feel a need to go too crazy with something like that. But if he's going to be sub 5% over, well, he's 6% here right now over on the Yahoo slate, but $13, I think that's a sneaky tournament dart in certain builds if you're hand building some over at Yahoo like me. So I really like those 3 for tournaments. Good luck to you over there. But Greg, let's go to the DraftKings board. Where are we kind of looking at going here at center?
Yeah, so you mentioned it before, and that's also one of the reasons that you guys should stick around the next 30 minutes. I think because you get to hang out with Eric and I, which is what's more fun than hang out with Eric and I.
We're so cool.
Yeah, it's so much. It's so much fun.
That write music live. We could do a live writing session for Jordan Klein.
Jordan will come up with his beats, and something that, because Eric and I we have so much going on in our lives that we will very frequently sit around here for like 3 hours after the show ends doing the exact same thing we do on the show, just sitting here talking about the late swaps we're going to be making and making fun of each other. But also, we don't have this net starting lineup. So to bring this back into what your question was, I like LaMarcus Aldridge a lot today. I do not know if he's starting at center. I am assuming he is, but I'm going to have to make my changes if the Nets starting lineup comes out in the next 30 minutes and it does not include LaMarcus Aldridge. As of now, I'm expecting him to start. Is it the same for you?
Yes. I have nothing further to add.
Okay, cool. So LaMarcus Aldridge, assuming he starts, which I think is the case for this reason. Yesterday, I was talking about it before. Andre Drummond gets hurt. When he gets hurt, the first player to check in for him was LaMarcus Aldridge. I generally take that to mean that LaMarcus Aldridge is the next man up. So I like getting to him there. He's a center I like a lot. The other one that I think is pretty unavoidable, Daniel Gafford. We've seen him play in expanded role as a starter as of late, and his salary hasn't really moved, particularly on DK at $3,600. So Gafford to me is another important play at center. Those are my 2 favorite value options there. They're both going to be popular, so I'm not really deviating from the field, but Gafford and Aldridge, I think, are both pretty strong options.
Yeah, when I say that Brooklyn could do something wonky, I truly just mean that Brooklyn could do something wonky, but I don't think it matters because we have an infinite amount of time to be able to react to it. We have this half hour afterwards, and we only have Detroit and Washington locking. This isn't a slate where we had 3 games. If we had like half the slate locking here at 7 p.m. Eastern time, like yesterday, you might have needed to make some stands and find some different paths to have different things happen, but not the case here today. We have pretty much an unlimited amount of time here. Thomas Satoransky available to make Wizards season debut. It's kind of weird to see. Does that do anything for you? I wasn't rostering Neto or Ish Smith anyway.
No, I mean, he's going to play some minutes off the bench that'll come away from Ish Smith and Howell Neto, most likely. Assuming Satoransky's in the rotation, he might not even be in the rotation, but I think he will be in play some minutes. Let me see. Maybe that'll lower my exposure. Well, we've only got a few minutes to react. Let me look at the minutes allocations I had, and
we have a ton of super chats to get to in the next.
All right, yeah, just read them off. It's not going to make a difference for me, okay. So who cares?
Yeah, well, people are going to have a ton of time to react to stuff here. Brown, Wood, or Jackson for tiers on DK. So this is just a straight projection question because we're not going to look at ownership here for those. But Brown, Wood, or Jackson for you in tiers?
Brown. That is Brown for me. Jaylen Brown.
All right. Gerard Perval, excuse me. Gerald Perval. Got it. Thoughts on Christian Wood on FanDuel? Like him?
Yeah, I think Christian Wood's a pretty strong option, especially with Kevin Porter Jr. out. That's extra shots to go around.
Yep, we like that. Stephen Drake's best guard for 8,100 left. You need that 100 just to get up to that Jackson. That would be great. So D White, Smart, Bog, or anyone else other than Flynn. Flynn's the best play on the slate, so I don't really.
But with 8,100, if you have 8,100 left, I'm not playing Flynn.
Yeah, that's exactly it. 8,100 left, best guard available. I mean, find 100 to get to Jackson, but otherwise you kind of are, I think, just from building some earlier before the show, that's kind of no man's land. D'Angelo Russell's, D'Lo's 600 less. So we'll just go with that and move ourselves on to Derek Stansel, $5. These are massive super chats. We appreciate you guys. Pritchard, Gordon, or Coffee, last man in FanDuel. Do not play Pritchard. I know he's gone off the last two games. He's playing like 17 minutes a game in normal game scripts. Gordon or Coffee would be the question between those two. Doesn't make me feel comfortable, but I would say Coffee is the most upside. Gordon's the most secure.
It is Eric Gordon for me. I have him in not a lot. I have him in a few lineups, not anything significant, but I have more exposure to him than I do to Coffee.
If I have 8% of him on FanDuel, so I will throw that out there. Amir Coffee. I think maybe I didn't even get to him. Maybe I'll adjust some of that here as we go to lock here. But back to center here for the last 2 minutes, Greg. There's one interesting kind of question I have. Zubats or Capella, 6,100 each. I mean, it's kind of a no man's land of center because we have so many cheapies to work from. Gafford, LaMarcus Aldridge, I know you love. Kevon Looney's garnering some attention. Who's your preference between Capella and Zubats on this slate?
Well, I mean, given the outlook of the slate, these are not guys that are priorities for me. We have so many cheap centers to get to. But if I had to roster one, let's see, who do I have projected higher and who do I get some more of? It is Zubats by the slightest of hairs for me, but I'm underweight to both of them.
Achua or Gafford is kind of another fun one. There's Gafford there. Okay. Yeah. Gafford's a smash today. He's $10 on Yahoo. He's 3,600 on DK. I see no way that you don't have him in a lot of lineups. I have 33% of him. So I'm above the field on DK.
Yeah. I love Gafford today. Gafford.
All right. Let's win all the money. That seems like a great idea here. Greg, anything that the people need to know here in the next minute before lock?
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything. Let me just look through. I mean, what they really need to know is that Eric and I are going to be talking about Jock Market for the next 30 minutes. But even if you guys don't play on Jock Market, which you guys should check it out. You can download the app for free. They do a free contest. We also don't have the Nets starting lineup. We're also missing news on Anthony Edwards. I'm not going to bring up the LeBron James thing because it'll give me a heart attack. I'm tired of talking about LeBron James being on the injury report. Anthony Edwards is questionable. That's a big one. We're waiting for news on him. The other thing also, that Nets starting lineup, they could do anything, that Brooklyn Nets team. So stick around and we'll react to that news when we get it.
Gary Payton. Everybody bringing up Kispert or Gary Payton. That's not going to be either of them for me. How about that? That's the right answer. 100% Flynn. Yeah, if it busts, I'm quitting. Oh, I'm just losing, and I'm going to play tomorrow. And we'll see you on Live Before Lock for that, because that'll be very fun. But now we're going to be talking some Jock Market. Ring the Jock Market bell. Do we have it? Do we have the bell? Waiting. God, Jordan Klein, what are we paying you for, dude? What are we? You don't even know.
Not to wear sleeves. Tell you that much.
Yeah. Sun's out, guns out, bro. Let's go.
Yeah.
We
need Jordan to make more money so he could get more fabric to cover more of his body when we're doing the shows.
Isn't that so ironic that like shoes, different sizes, they don't really cost different money, but there's more material used, and shirts, you go up and they're all the same size, whether it's an extra small or a large. shouldn't it have some kind of an increase? Shouldn't it increase in this is Jack Handy deep thoughts.
No. I mean, like, do you think those kids that are getting paid 10 cents an hour to make a shirt, that there's that much extra labor that goes into making one because they're trying to fill, I'm just trying to think of, we don't have any like gigantic fat people that work for us. I was trying to think of, I was trying to juxtapose my shirt size versus
I'm just saying that I'm trying to come up for a reason that Jordan Klein might not have any clothing on his body, but that was the best I could come up with, was maybe he's just like, oh, I can't get the full thing because, it's doubly more expensive. But then it got me thinking that why isn't that the case?
Because the fabric isn't what is actually expensive. It is it's the marketing of it, if that's an aspect of it, and just the shipping and all that.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
LaMarcus Aldridge is starting. So
there we go. Perfect.
Mills, Curry, anything. Brown, Johnson, Aldridge, initial reaction.
Exactly what I thought. So there's nothing I have to change.
Yeah, that's fun. I don't either. That's enjoyable. I said, could have been weird. It wasn't weird. I'm glad it's not weird. How much LaMarcus Aldridge are you playing today? Because my number is scary.
He's in about half my lineups.
He's in more than half of mine. So yeah, I'm 55%, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean we're not that much different though.
Yeah. Do you have any Kevon Looney? That's a guy that I feel like I have to get to. I don't feel like I have to play Kevon Looney is what I'm getting at, and I have like 2% of him, but he's projecting out pretty decently.
No, I do not think you have to play Kevon Looney.
That's a great sentence. Even just saying that, do I have to play Kevon Looney? And of course, you know what I just did? I X'd out all my tabs. This is fun. So let's talk jock market here as I get everything fired back up here. Ring the jock market bell, Jordan. You don't have it? You already did it? You don't have it.
Who stole it?
Oh man, if excuses went
you know who'd have the jock market bell? Tyler would have the jock
Tyler
market bell.
Xander would. Mike Lawrence would.
Do you know who also would have put the right sponsor in the run sheet for the topics list? Probably Greg.
Oh, look at that! By the
my
way,
lord, Jordan Klein. He comes out. I didn't know he had those teeth. He just gnarled them. He's like a little tiny chihuahua, just coming at me.
By the way, that's a reasonable counterpoint. If you put the wrong sponsor in the thing, there's no reason for him to have pulled the
So jock market is the place that we are going to go to now. I'm going to pull it up here on my phone as well. We have the free projections to be looking at because jock market's the best. And I would never screw them up as our sponsor. I did not say such things. I did not even write such things. That is blasphemy and did not happen. Greg, let's look at the top of the board here for it. The clapback was so real. Yeah, it's true. It's just how we do here. This is how we do it. Sorry, I'm finding jock market. There it is. Now I'm pulling it up. Greg, looking at the jock market projections and looking at the market here, the NBA daily market for today, is there a play that sticks out at the top of the board for you?
Yeah, well, I have to scroll through the current ask prices and see where everybody's kind of at here. By the way, so Russell Westbrook, what do we need? The 789 kind of seems low for Westbrook, but maybe not. Have you just given up on the idea that Russell Westbrook is any fantasy upside?
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of have too.
It is painful to watch him play basketball right now. And I love this guy. Like this guy in OKC was fun. Now, OKC was never going to win anything with him being the number one there, but God, was it fun to watch him. It is really tough to watch his brand of basketball as he gets older.
Yeah. So at first glance, I'm kind of like, maybe there's upside in Russell Westbrook. And then I kind of did a double take and was like, actually, no, there isn't. So maybe he's slightly underpriced, but I don't really want to be investing in Russell Westbrook. Let's see who else here potentially stands out.
While we're going through this, everybody hit the like button. We need to get those likes up, especially because I'm getting beat up by Jordan Klein now too. He
dunked on you good.
As if Greg didn't make fun of me enough on these freaking shows. Jordan Klein coming back being like, oh, you, even though Jock Market was on before it. Oh no, Eric, You've been on 48 shows. No, you can't do this. Sure.
I have the answer for you, by the way.
All right, I'm ready.
I'm going to buy the shares of him as I'm saying this, but LaMarcus Aldridge
Yes.
has an asking price of $4.74. I think there is a lot of upside in LaMarcus Aldridge right now, so I am buying some LaMarcus Aldridge shares.
Yeah, 489 filled, laid. Did I get in? Your order was filled. 489. I got him. Got 2 shares. That was quick. Good work by you. So I have him. I have him projected for nearly 30 fantasy points today, which is a lot higher than what his projection is here on. Jockmark, they only have him projected for 23 fantasy points. So that's the main reason for the big difference right here in terms of where they have him versus where I have him. But yeah, I would say the fair IPO price for him is probably in that $6 range. So being able to get him at sub $5, I think that was a pretty good buy. Mike Yoakum with the $4.20 super chat. I wonder what he's getting at there. Smoke him if you got him! Exclamation mark. Peace! Exclamation mark. Yeah, you could do that. Welcome to California. Jake Lindland. I thought Lindquist was tough sometimes. Lindland. I love Lindland would also, I don't know. Jake, you're awesome. We always see you here. DK GPP with Barnes, Siakam, Wiggins, or Tatum Poole. So you've got GPP with Barnes. So that's cool. Siakam, Wiggins, or Tatum Poole. That is Siakam, Wiggins for me, not close.
Yep. Siakam and Wiggins for me. One side is 3 players. The other side is 2.
I think he just wanted us to know that he had Barnes in the lineup. I think that was just educational for us to know that.
Okay. All right.
Maybe in the event that can you play Barnes and Siakam together? Some people worry about that stuff and I don't. Let's see. Carl Anderson, $1.99. Westbrook or Schroeder FanDuel? What a world where I like Schroeder more than Westbrook.
Here's I'm pretty sure I still have Westbrook projected for more fantasy points though.
But they're 5,500. There's a salary discrepancy between.
But I assume he has the salary and he's just trying to figure out which one of the two to roster.
I have 15% Westbrook on FanDuel. I don't really want to get off of. I don't want to increase off of that. I have way more.
I have a lot more exposure to Dennis Schroeder, but if you're just asking who scores more fantasy points between Dennis Schroeder and Russell Westbrook, it is Westbrook for me.
That's fair.
But if you can upgrade some other position that you actually like getting to, then Dennis Schroeder is one of my most rostered players today. Russell Westbrook is not.
Corey Ballmer, $2. Guys, your super chats. You guys have been more than gracious today. We can't say thank you enough. And while you're at it, hit the like button because we're needy people. But D. Russell, Tatum, or Luka and Bruce Brown on DK.
That is, I hate Bruce Brown today. I do not like. Here's what's tough. I do not like Bruce Brown today. I love getting to Luka today. I don't like Russell unless Edwards is out. And even then, if Edwards is out, Russell doesn't become a great play for me, just becomes somebody who's viable. I guess I say Tatum and Russell. I don't like getting to Bruce Brown at his elevated price point.
It is not an enjoyable feeling. I will say that. That's why I'm not going to do it, really. This is the second one where we've had like a 2v2 where we loved one player. We loved Siakam in that other one. And then it just felt like the other guy was a cast off. Upgrade Bruce Brown. Give us anything else that you can fall in other than Bruce Brown, and we'll like that side of it.
Here's what we'll do.
More. Okay.
Who else is priced? So he needs presumably a small forward on DK, right?
Yeah.
Small
5,400 is Bruce Brown.
All right. So let's figure this out. He needs a small forward at 5,400. Who do I have projected the highest in that range? Boy, all these options are terrible.
Yeah. DeAndre Hunter would be it for me at 4,600, but then you're leaving a lot of salary on the table.
It's Denny for me, but that's also leaving a lot of salary on the table.
Yeah. Cause I know he's landing on Bruce Brown and he's rostering him there as a result of it. If he's like hand building it out, and Bruce Brown is not the apocalypse. He's not good. I have legitimately 0 shares of him. So I will say not good for me. But if you're talking about anybody else in that range, Diallo locked, and I wouldn't want to roster him anyway. Cameron Thomas is a definite no-go. Avdia locked. Dorian Finney-Smith, no. DeAndre Hunter, 4,600. That's the one guy I'm getting exposure to. I have 12% of him. Actually ended up a tiny bit. Well, no, that's exactly what the field's at now. Kevin Huerter, I love the man, but not on this slate. Don't really see it. Don't really see anybody else there. Maybe Eric Gordon if you wanted to try to upgrade something else, but I'm just not really seeing anything in that number.
Yeah, that's the same stance I have there. Just the Russell and Tatum side.
All right, Carl Anderson, 499. Again, where are you guys? Are just littering us with super chats today. We appreciate you. That question of Westbrook or Dennis, I have Young, Flynn, Luka, Wiggins, Tatum, Carmelo, Barnes, Aldridge. That's great. So are we going back to just which one we prefer, Schroeder or Westbrook? Because raw fantasy points, I think Greg's right. It's that. But then my brain is malfunctioning. Why are you laughing?
So what he's asked. So he wants us to figure out where to upgrade.
I can't with Jordan Klein today.
What did I miss
a lot better play on fifth. No, he's just beat red because he's laughing at me and joking around because he likes watching me fumble through words. He's like, Eric, this is funny. Eric can't talk and say the words today. He said, it's like in elementary school when somebody says poop. He meant something else.
He dunked on you good earlier.
Yeah, congratulations on the first time for everything. Act like you've been there before, Jordan Klein. Act like you've been there before.
All right. So his question, he's given us the rest of his lineup. He wants to know if he was to play Schroeder, where he would upgrade.
Eric is funny when provoked. Thanks, Van Dam NYC, for the backhanded compliment. I would upgrade Carmelo.
Yeah. There we go. Said at the same time.
Oh,
Melo is
for cute.
4,800. So what is the salary range he could get up to? He had Melo in at power forward. Melo is 4,800. So how much extra salary does he have to play with now then?
I don't know. Don't make me time you out, Carlos Manzo. We're friends, but that can change on a dime, my friend. That can change. Your virtual identity. Don't go
from Melo to Marcus Morris.
I like this. I love the attention to detail that you give people, because I'm going to say I wouldn't always do this. I appreciate this.
No. You've made that clear. You got a question you didn't know how to answer before. You're like, I have a coin flip app on my phone.
I am a piece of shit. Sorry about it. Let's keep going. To Jock Market. Oh, no, we have another super chat, and then we'll talk some Jock Market. Orion, 499, FanDuel GPP. How do I make this contrarian? All right. So we got Jackson, Flynn, Luka, Schroeder, Wiggins, Tatum, Siakam, Aldridge, Zubats. Help. Feel like I'll tie with everyone. All right. Well, Zubats will be a little bit different. Tatum's not super different over there, but yeah, it's a pretty chalky lineup, I would say.
Wiggins and Zubats are not really chalky.
Wiggins is like 22%. I know because I just did my inputs on.
We said FanDuel.
FanDuel, yeah, and then Zubats is over 10%. So everybody on that lineup. Zubats is the lowest owned, and then Tatum ended up. What did he end up on? For this, he's at 34%. Yeah, everybody's Zubats is the lowest owned at 12. Wiggins would be next at 22. I think what's fascinating, like this Jackson Schroeder, if you say that game just doesn't live up to the hype, it went 99-98 the other day. Maybe you try to get off of that here. Wiggins is a lot better play on FanDuel, in my opinion. And then Siakam is fantastic. Look, it's a good lineup. You just simply have to find some different spots to be able to go back and forth and say, all right, these are the points of leverage. That's where our lineup builder tool really comes in a lot of handy. If you go to NBA, to the Awesemo tab there, and you go to the DFS tools and you go to the lineup builder, there's a contrarian ranking. This came in a lot of handy for me in NFL when I was building out 3-max stuff. There was a show that Josh Engelman did with Alex Baker, and it was super helpful and useful. And I got a lot out of that, but put those players in to the FanDuel section and check out what pops out in terms of the contrarian score. So you really have an opportunity to see how chalky it is, see what that ownership's coming to. Some people put caps on it. I think it's dependent on slate to slate. Plus, Greg and I are on shows. There's a lot that we have to cover that's pretty hard for us to go through in an Excel spreadsheet and be able to manually input all of our ownership stuff back and forth. Now, Josh Engelman has it down pretty well. I can tell that he has it down pretty well watching him on shows. Maybe I'll ask him for some help there, but that is my quickest way if you're building out one lineup to be able to do it and find the contrarian pieces that you might want to go for like a 2v2.
Yep. I think that all makes sense. And same, like, so for me, I don't want to necessarily say it's a gut feeling because I'll run my lineups in Fantasy Cruncher and then I'll kind of compare it to the ownership. It's like, oh, I'm much lower on this guy than what the field is. Then it's probably somebody that I just want to be even lower on than that. And if there's somebody that I'm popping up as being, maybe like 5 to 10% over on my first run, I'll try to maybe get a little more aggressive with them and be like, oh, I think this guy's being under-owned. So I don't have an exact scientific process, but that's kind of how I do it.
Came in a lot of handy. Did I say something wrong there? Is that not how you're supposed to say it? It just came in handy and just move on with your day. Okay, cool. I'll do that.
I thought everything said was fine.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
But Jordan just thinks you're a riot today.
Bitter today. Dude, no more Foreman's old fashions for you, my friend.
Yeah, Jordan, when you talk, Jordan's looking at you like you have a penis growing out of the middle of your forehead. Everything you say, look. Do you know, like everything you say, Jordan's like locked in. He leans into his computer. He's staring. Yeah. Look, Jordan's on the edge of his seat today, the entire show.
Oh, man. I'd say what's up his, but we already know. Here we go. Back to Jock Market, giving our sponsor the attention that they deserve here. And then I promise, Baba Yaga. That's a great name. Baba Yaga. Bebe Yage. That's fun to say too. Baba Yaga. That's the awesomest screen name ever. Plus, I can't say anything to get in trouble. Frankie Lofton, $2 there. Love that as well. We're going to get to those here in a second. But Jock Market, I'm looking around at some of the top guys because it's $25 it pays out per share on the top end. Luka, already up to 18-14. You'd need a pretty large bankroll to want to really make that an investment at this point. If you got shares in the IPO phase, congratulations. That's a great get. You said LeBron James is a guy you're not necessarily looking at there. Pascal Siakam, his fair IPO price, I think it's changed a little bit since the open here. And I'm trying to pull up my fantasy sheets because I'll literally just look at sometimes the fantasy point output that I have closer to FanDuel because you do get the 3 for the stocks upside over on Jock Market, I believe, as well. And so you have an opportunity to look at, let me pull that up to double check because I want to make sure I'm speaking correctly. Nope, it's 2 per. So it's 2 per steals and blocks here. Pascal Siakam, though, still a guy that 6th on the board. I might want to be reacting to that game live. We're already exposed to him in DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. But looking here at Jock Market, is that a guy you might want to invest in if he gets off to a hot start against Brooklyn?
The price is already there. So let's see. So the ask is $12.49 for $12.49. You need him to be. That's about fair. You need him to be the 7th best scorer on the slate or better. I actually have him projected 4th highest right now. So maybe a little bit of upside there, but not anything significant. The other thing also is if Edwards gets ruled out, Karl Anthony Towns would probably bump him for me. We've also got that game starting in 11 minutes. Still no, or the Toronto Brooklyn game. There's not quite enough value there. If I had to pick somebody to buy shares of, I don't think Siakam is a terrible purchase, but I don't think it's enough value to really go after.
What? I did not make this mistake, did I?
I don't know.
Do I have 100% of this? No.
What did you do?
I don't even want to talk about it.
No,
okay,
tell me.
Good.
Tell me.
I accidentally locked in Corey Kispert for a second. I thought I accidentally clicked on him instead of Malachi Flynn. Fortunately, I did not. But for some reason, the 3 lineups I clicked on in a row all had him. And I was like, wait, and my sheet, I get closed out of everything on my tabs. So just had to double check because that gave me a heart attack. Kuzma off to a terrible start. This is the other fun part about playing over on Jock Market is we're able to react to these lines or to these games and what the fantasy point outputs are coming out as. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope off to a hot start, 5 points, 1 assist, 2 rebounds. Greg said he liked him. Made no sense why he was being undervalued. He's sub 20% in the $15 over on DK. I think that's a pretty darn good call here by Greg.
I mean, he's also, I haven't checked the ownership today because I've had the
16.11% in the $15 on DK.
Huh. He should have been higher on than that.
He is not.
Well, good for me.
Oh, we got more super chats. You guys are out of your minds today. We love you. Baba Yaga, Vanderbilt, Zubats, or Morris Howard on FanDuel. I'm not playing Howard with my center spot on FanDuel.
It is Morrison and Howard for me.
It is Morrison Howard. I'm going Vanderbilt and Zubats, if only because I don't want to play Dwight Howard in my center spot. Frankie Lofton, $2. DK single entry, Curry, Aldridge, or LBJ and Howard.
Curry and Aldridge.
Same. Justin Alberto, Tatum and LMA, or Trey and Vandy if my lineup is chalky. What site, Justin? Let me know what site, Justin, because that's going to be different for me. Tatum is really chalky over on FanDuel and not on DK.
So can we answer this question based on the positions?
Salary. Yeah, we could.
So Aldridge, because Aldridge doesn't have power forward eligibility over on DK. So doesn't this have to be a FanDuel question?
I was thinking with Trey, it could be a DK question where it's like a utility spot because the salary of Tatum and Trey, and then Vandy and LMA. I mean, I like Trey at LMA the most between the two.
It's Tatum and LaMarcus Aldridge for me, no matter what. So
okay, cool. And yeah, LMA is awesome. Angelo, $1.99. Tate, Man, Morris, or Scotty, DraftKings. So Tate, Man, Morris, or Scotty. How about we just rank those four? Say that.
He's just asking for one. Scotty Barnes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Scotty Barnes would be the one. Morris would be if you're just asking for one, then there we go. Best center on Yahoo, Achua, LMA, or Zubats. It would be LMA at this point.
Yeah, Aldridge.
Yeah, now that he's confirmed in there. So fire up LMA in literally everything that you could possibly want to do. Going back to Jock Market here, I want to be tracking our shares. I mean, I feel pretty good about this LMA exposure that we have over there. He's trading for 646. If you had bought shares with Greg and I at 489, you could lock in a profit right now. You could just make money. If you had bought 100 shares of him, sold them, you'd be making over $1 per share on that. That's pretty fun to think about that kind of an opportunity. Guaranteed profit. I don't even have to watch LMA play now. I feel pretty good about my exposure to him and having shares of him, so I'm going to keep it going. But if that was something you wanted to lock in, be quick on the trigger finger. If somebody gets 2 fouls, be able to react to that faster than other people. If somebody gets hurt, try to be able to react to that faster than other people. Those are the things that are going to make you a better player over on Jock Market and just a better DFS player, sports better, all of the things that you want to be here following our channel. So LMA still looking like the guy that I'm really glad that Greg talked us into getting shares of here from the get-go. Anybody else on the Jock Market board that is sticking out to you right now?
I'm scrolling. I think there's a little bit of reason to be interested in Andrew Wiggins. Asking price for him right now is at 667. That would imply him to be the 23rd top highest scorer fantasy player on the slate. I have him inside the top 20. So I don't think that is a bad purchase. Once again, not a massive amount of value. I'm also kind of just sorting it by the players who I'm overweight to in DFS, thinking that those are the guys that would make sense. Oh, here's somebody I think you're going to agree with. Marcus Morris.
Yes. I love Marcus
So Marcus Morris. Yeah, Marcus Morris is another one that's reasonable. He has an asking price of $5.98. I think there's a little bit of upside in that. So I'm going to try to get some shares of Marcus Morris.
Well done. $5.98. That person must have multiple shares. That's great.
All right. So Marcus Morris, I got some shares of him.
I literally just followed Greg's lead at this point.
Scrolling. Where
takes the emotion out of the game.
You know what I think we should do also? Let's try to figure out the Timberwolves situation.
Okay.
If there is no Anthony Edwards tonight, who are the guys that are going to benefit and how can we try to take advantage of that? Not that we're going to buy shares of these guys now, but I was texting you last night in our group chat. Actually, I bought some, I opened up Jockbarg and bought some shares when lineup news came out yesterday. I got shares of Trey Lyles at like $1.40 yesterday. Man. And
it's beautiful.
Yeah, the return was really high. I think the return was like 450% by the time that the slate was over. So I think that there's a similar type situation to be had here where if we see Edwards get ruled out, we can just right away just buy shares of whoever's open on the market. D'Angelo Russell, he already has an asking price of $872. That's really high. Karl Anthony Towns is already close to $13. What about Patrick Beverley?
Yeah, I was at a gas station where I stopped to the side of the road and was putting my lineups in and figuring everything out. And I got the alert, because you get everything alerted to your phone from the old Discord chat from NewsGod. Check it out, everybody. Make sure you have those alerts set up. But all of a sudden I saw Lyle's starting. Oh, okay. Pull over. It was like in the movies where it goes, and you park and you just get to as much Lyle's as you possibly could. There were like 4 minutes before that lock of the 7:30 game where you had to kind of react and get as much Trey Lyles into your lineups as possible and then figure out the rest. There's spots like that where it happens. And on Jock Market, it's the most easy way to capitalize on it, because you're only finding one player. You get as many shares as you can, and you're going to be profitable, like you just are.
Yeah. And so,
more super chats.
Anyway, Patrick Beverley is the guy that I think would stand out the most considering the current pricing.
Joe K, this is a nice $2 super chat. Played KCP off to a good start so far. Good call, Greg. It's a good call, Greg, until it's not a good call, Greg. That's how it works. Yeah.
That is a reasonable way to look at how it works. But yeah, I mean, KCP was not correctly priced today, and people weren't. I mean, obviously, it's not like he was a massive contrarian play, but just wasn't as popular as he should have been.
John Cooper, $4.99 with a Jock Market super chat. Oh, John, you are the best. When y'all play Jock Market, do you buy like 5 to 6 shares of a wide amount of players, or more like 20 to 30 shares of a few players? That is a great question, John. Greg, how do you go about allocating shares of players on Jock Market?
So some of it isn't up to us, because a lot of it's depending on how many shares are being listed at certain prices. But I could just say for me right now, I have 20 shares of LaMarcus Aldridge and I have 10 shares of Marcus Morris.
Yeah, if you made Luka Doncic $12, I would want as much Luka Doncic as I could possibly stockpile into my virtual shopping cart and carry it with me to the bank. That's how it is. I like players relative to the way other people like players on Jock Market. And so it's going to depend on the day. Sometimes you're going to have players like today. We're talking through this live, so it's a little bit more difficult to just say, oh, well, I want to get to this player, this player, this player. We're trying to find 1 or 2 plays that we can really help you guys, that we feel confident in. Marcus Morris, LaMarcus Aldridge, getting in on the ground floor for both of those plays, then could work out. If Dwight Howard gets off to a hot start, buying shares of them. So you're going to also have it happen live. In the pregame IPO phase, though, when you're buying shares before the game starts, you can really get a discount on prospective news. You can get those shares of like a guy that might start for $1 or $2, whereas he'll be $6 once people start reacting to it. So the timing of the news really matters too on which players I'll get to.
Yeah, for sure. And then once again, it also is going to depend on how good of value players are. You know, think of the same as DFS. I liked KCP as a points per dollar play. I also liked Malachi Flynn as a points per dollar play. I have way more exposure to Malachi Flynn, even though I'm overweight to the field on KCP, just because I thought by far Malachi Flynn was the best value play on the slate. So it's not really any different than that concept.
All right, guys, this is Jock Market. It's been so fun to talk you through it. We got one more super chat, actually. XC Williams, don't want to forget you. Tatum, Precious, Zubats, Trey. Oh, man, it's a 4v4. Tatum, Precious, Zubats, Trey, or Tatum, Precious, D'Lo, and Trent. No site given. XC, can you please give us a site here for that 4v4 so we can round it out?
Okay, I'm going to make this easy. It's not a 4v4. Tatum and Precious are both in the same.
Oh, there you go.
It's a 2v2. So it's Zubats and Trey Young, or D'Angelo Russell and Gary Trent. So once again, with anything regarding D'Lo, it's going to depend on whether we get Anthony Edwards in the lineup or not. So for now, Zubats and Trey, but D'Lo and Trent if Edwards is rolled out.
Yep. We're still waiting on that news. We're going to keep waiting on that news here. We're not going to be able to react to it for you guys. Was hoping we would, but either way, thank you so much for hanging out. Smash that like button. 1.4K of you guys hanging out after lock. We can't say thank you enough for doing that. It goes a long way for Greg and myself and Jordan Klein over there. The nicest producer named Jordan Klein at Awesemo.com. Still mad at you. It's fine. Whatever. Here we go. Jock Market. Awesemo. Promo code Awesemo gets you $100 first match deposit bonus. That's great. Plus that first market guarantee. No better time than now to try out Jock Market, our sponsor. Our lineups never lock over there. That's how it works. They pay out at the end of the night, though. That's the best part. Greg, this was a lot of fun per usual. Any final words for the people?
No, just be on the lookout for that Anthony Edwards news. It should be coming out relatively soon.
I would hope so. Lock is in 30 minutes. Stay tuned. Hang out in the premium Discord. Maybe I'll jump in there here for a second. He's Greg Ehrenberg. He was actually the nicer of the two today to me. That's great. I'm Eric Lindquist. I'm never nice to myself. We'll see you guys later.